Next stop,
Welcome to a special Wednesday edition of Chicago Live. I'm your host, Jake Hamilton. We have a lot of things to get to over the next couple of hours, so a wide range of guests on today's show. A little bit later this hour, we're going to be talking with someone about an auction involving all things Colonel Sanders, like the real, actual Colonel Sanders, the man behind KFC. They are auctioning off some of his actual items over the course of his life, including his house. We're also going to talk with someone about, and this is a thing you'd never expect to say at any point in your career, an OnlyFans account involving marmots, involving little rodents. There's an actual legitimate reason behind that statement, and we're going to talk with someone about the fact that it is actually a very real story and kind of a serious story, and so we're going to be talking about that. But we do have another serious story that we're going to get to off the top. So you may have heard about this. We talked about it a little bit in the last hour of the show. Some schools are installing pepper spraying drones to help stop active school shooters. There are these sort of high-tech devices that are combating active shooters. 9 schools so far around the U.S. are being equipped with the drones that are supposed to sort of distract at least the school shooter until the police arrive. They have flashing strobe lights, and they have sirens, and they spray this sort of this pepper gel. The aircraft is called the Campus Guardian Angel. It can ram at about 50 miles an hour. We're going to talk with Justin Marston, the founder and CEO of Campus Guardian Angel. Justin, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you. Justin, I think you might be muted. Let's give Justin a second. Let's see. Justin, are you with us? Hold tight. I'll tell you what, Justin, we might have you leave and then come back and log back in, because we definitely want to get you on the show and talk about this, because it really is a fascinating topic. Are we going to have Justin log off and log back in? Yeah. All right, so we're going to have Justin log off and log back in just to kind of check in with us, because we absolutely want to do want to hear about this. So yeah, we're going to talk with Justin of Campus Guardian Angel. It's the company that is behind these pepper spraying drones that are stopping active. The attempt is to stop active school shooters. They have strobe lights, they have sirens, they spray a pepper gel. Let's see, Justin, are you with us?
Yeah, I changed microphone, magic.
Oh, excellent, my man. I appreciate it. Well, thank you for taking the time to join us. We do appreciate you. Let's jump into this. Take me back to the beginning. Where did the initial idea for this device come from?
Yeah, so in a lot of school shootings, it's all over in 120 seconds. So the big challenge is, how do you get something that's there fast enough to stop this individual from murdering a bunch of kids? And so, really the inspiration came from seeing how effective small drones were at getting through bullets, getting through, challenges to reach somebody in conflicts that we see around the world today. They're just incredibly good at that. They're so hard to shoot, and it's like trying to shoot a mosquito, and if they do get shot, they don't matter, because they're just a lump of plastic. And so the thought was, hey, look, if we could use these drones, they don't need to have guns anymore, because they're so good at getting through gunfire, they can just hit the person. And if we could do that as a managed service where we centralize the pilots, it would allow us to protect any school with a 5-second response time, just picking up the drones that are in that school that gets hit, and flying them, distracting, doing things to disrupt that active shooter, to prevent them from killing people.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit more sort of the logistics of how the drones work. Can you sort of talk to me? I mean, I'm assuming they'd be docked somewhere in the school. Like, can you walk me through that?
Yeah, so we put them in boxes throughout the school, just like the sprinkler system. You have a sprinkler system at your kid's school. It has water in pipes throughout the building, and if somebody comes in, if a fire gets started, it can put water on the fire straight away and really put it out before it has the chance to kill people. And there hasn't been a mass death from a fire in a school since 1958, and there's never been one in a school that has a sprinkler system. So really, it's the same kind of concept of like we put these boxes with drones throughout the school, and whichever box is closest to where the shooter comes from, that's the one that we launch from, and then we go after the shooter from there.
How do you guys get word, or how does word get to the drones that they need to deploy?
Yeah, so we integrate with existing tracking mechanisms. So schools often have these panic buttons where the teachers can press the button and say, hey, my kids' lives are at risk. There's somebody who's coming into the school with a gun. And that's one way we can get notified. There's other mechanisms, looking at cameras, listening for things that sound like gunshots. I mean, whatever trigger you've got, 911, a police officer can just, call into 911, they'll call us. But the real challenge is the police are typically 5 minutes out. And according to Texas Alert and the FBI, about 2/3 of mass shootings are over before the police get there on scene. And they take, on average 5 to 8 minutes to get there. So how do you get something there in seconds? That's the difference. So as soon as we get notified, our goals are to respond in 5 seconds, to be on the shooter in 15 seconds, and to degrade or incapacitate in 60 seconds.
Does that stand to reason that you guys will just have drone pilots on standby? I mean, God forbid if this were to happen, that for the period of a school day, you just have drone pilots on standby?
That's right. We have a tactical operations center, and just like 911, when you pick up the phone and you call 911, you expect somebody to pick up really quickly. It's a similar thing. We have pilots, we have folks who spent decades of their life, doing tactical entries in SWAT, in, elite parts of our nation's services. And so it's really, having that talent, they have to be there, sat on the edge of their seats, because as soon as that person pulls a gun out of a bag, every second, it counts. It can be more lives that get lost.
Talk to me about the schools that have integrated this so far. What is it, Florida, Georgia, and Colorado? Is it still 9 schools so far?
So we're deployed in 3 schools in Florida today, and they have the Florida legislature has approved a follow-on for an additional 3 schools. We haven't deployed in those yet. They're still deciding which schools it's going to be. It'll be in 3 different counties. There's 5 in Georgia that we're deploying to right now. And then there's a school that's just decided to work with us in Colorado, and then we have a bunch of others that we're talking to, both private and public. We actually did a demonstration in Chicago maybe 1 to 2 months ago, and it was at a private Jewish school there. They had concerns about events related to gun violence, and they asked us to come out and show how it would work in their school in Chicago. So yeah, we continue to show to different schools, and different ones are moving at different paces with us. But I think we'll be in 7 or 8 states by the end of the year.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the demonstration in Chicago? Do you remember what school it was?
I can't say the name, and I'm gonna. It's hard to pronounce, but it was a small private Jewish school, yeah, it was just in, their rabbis had asked us in. It's an Orthodox school. Yeah, we just did it in one of their buildings. It's kind of a distributed school across a few city blocks. And, I had good feedback. We're continuing to talk to them. So I think this is one of these things you really have to see it for it to fully make sense. Whenever we do one of these demonstrations, we have people come along with a lot of questions, and a lot of them are similar questions we'll have heard before. Don't see how it could work, how it could be possible. Oh, can't somebody just hit it with a broomstick? And then about 5 minutes into the demonstration, a lot of those questions start to resolve themselves, really. That's why we've been doing. We would love to come back to Chicago. We'll probably be back there before the end of the year and do more demonstrations. Just to give people an opportunity to see it with their own eyes and evaluate whether they think it would be helpful in better protecting their children.
Can you tell me how the demonstrations actually work?
Yeah, so we typically will come in, we'll talk a little bit about how it all works, and then we'll fly the drones around just to kind of illustrate how quickly they can move inside confined spaces. Then sometimes we'll do joint clearing with a police officer, or we'll go look for a threat. So we'll have somebody who plays a threat actor. And in more sophisticated ones of these, they actually time those to see how long it takes for us to get to the threat. So some kind of joint clearing or some kind of sort of showing the tactics we use in real responses. And then we'll typically show the effects that we have against a dummy, just to illustrate what we would do to somebody who is a shooter. And those are the main pieces that we show in these demonstrations.
There have been some pushback from parents. Some people are not comfortable with the concept of maybe drones being a part of the school. They're worried about potentially drones misidentifying a threat. You mentioned that there are always questions whenever you guys come into a school.
Yeah.
What have been some of the more common pushbacks that you guys have heard from people, and then what are your answers to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the questions are based on not necessarily having talked to us or understand how we work. So, one is, well, how does the drone know who's the bad guy? And we kind of say, well, the drones aren't flying with AI. We have people who have spent decades of their lives in SWAT and in elite kind of military units who are very, very good at that. And they're telling the pilots what to do. And the drones are all flown by human pilots. So, we practice this all of the time. And we hire the best people we can who are really good at it. They get a lot more practice reps and have a lot more experience doing this than your typical, police officer can really have. Second one is, can't little Jimmy break into the drones and hack them? Because little Jimmy's really good with computers. And, my second company, we had most of the intelligence community as customers, built systems designed for top secret information flowing to the senior leader's cell phone. So there are security architectures that you can create that make it extremely difficult for somebody to break into and try and take control of it. Isn't it militarizing, and are the drones going to be flying around all the time, and are they going to go after little Timmy because he kicked the Coke machine? And again, we would just say, look, we're in boxes. They look like air conditioning systems up in the ceiling. They don't, they're just a metal box. I hope the students never see a drone because we never have to fly for a real response. But if we do, I mean, we're only going in a time when a teacher on site has said they think children could die. And in that moment, I think most parents would take anything to try and protect their kids. And, all these other concerns are less. I mean, when the gunfire starts, you just want to know that everything's being done that can be done to keep your kids safe. And so we aren't doing continuous surveillance. We aren't sort of, a proxy for Santa to determine who gets Christmas presents this year. That's not our goal. We're just going, if that happens, if something critical happens, that's the only time when we come out of the box, outside of training events when the kids aren't in the school.
You mentioned it comparable to sort of like 911 dispatch centers. There are obviously thousands of 911 dispatch centers all over the country. You mentioned sort of, right now your home base is out of Texas, I believe you said. Is
Correct.
the idea
Austin.
to potentially have more sort of responders and monitors more readily available in different areas of the country?
So, from Austin, we have been flying drones at high speed through the schools in Leon County, Tallahassee, in Volusia, near Orlando, so 1,000 miles away. So from a technology perspective, it doesn't make any difference to us whether the school is in Dallas or the school is in Chicago. In both cases, we have the same experience. We're able to fly, with very low latency because of all the work we've done on the technology side. Now, we do intend to end up building out some other centers. And that's more about time zone coverage and not having all of your eggs in one basket. We don't want to have any single point of failure across our service. And so having another center, on the East Coast, maybe we'll end up doing one in Hawaii, just for the maximum time difference. That starts to make it easier for us to run a 24/7 service, which is a goal next year. So right now we're doing school hours, but next year, we want to protect the early morning swim meet, the Saturday football training, the Friday night chess club, like every one of those events, we want to protect it for all time zones across the United States. And to do that, having greater time coverage, being able to be in different time zones with our operation centers makes a lot of sense.
Justin, are these drones used anywhere else other than schools?
We've started looking in the commercial world. We've had some commercial companies come to us and say, hey, we'd like our headquarters to be safer. We've had, some folks talk about in the oil and gas industry, talking about oil wells and, topically right now, their oil tankers, trying to make them safer against piracy risks. And, I do think we'll end up doing more in the commercial world, but our first mission, our first kind of inspiration for the company came because, we want we think every kid has the right to an education free from the fear of mass gun violence. And so education has been our first focus to really try and help make that become real. So,
are the schools reaching out to you to bring you guys out there for more information, or are you guys pitching different schools around the country?
We have a lot of schools coming through the front door and asking, from a whole bunch of different states. So we've done some shows, some different shows for police officers and for superintendents. But we're seeing a lot of people seeing us in the press and saying, hey, I'd like my kid to be safer at school. I'm going to contact the superintendent. I'm going to contact the principal, or, people who work in school safety. Again, it's an incredibly stressful job. If you're the person who has raised your hand and said, hey, I'm going to sign up to try and do hostage rescue, I just think all of those people should get as many, as much help, as many tools as they can to help them in those critical moments. And so we've seen a lot of police officers and, school administrators coming through and just saying, I'd really want that in that moment. I'd really want to know that I was backed up by that team and not having to go solo,
Fair enough. It is a fascinating conversation, one I'm sure we're going to keep having. Justin Marston, founder and CEO, Campus Guardian Angel, we appreciate your time today, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, it is 1:18. Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back. Welcome back, 120 on Chicago Live. There is an auction that has been going on. It's going to continue going on involving KFC founder Colonel Sanders. We're going to bring in Jonathan Klunk, the auctioneer and co-listing agent. Jonathan, thank you for taking the time. We appreciate you.
For having me.
Of course. First of all, tell us just a little bit about how you guys came into possessing so many different things involving the Colonel.
Well, they belong to my clients. The clients have ran a property for over 55 years now called Claudia Sanders Dinner House. And this is a restaurant that was founded by Colonel Sanders shortly after he sold Kentucky Fried Chicken for $2 million in 1965. It was the original KFC headquarters. So, you know, if anybody who's a bit of a Colonel Sanders historian knows that there were several lawsuits between him and KFC following the sale because essentially he didn't like the product that they were selling and wasn't afraid to talk about it. So he wanted to open a restaurant to really show them how to make chicken again. And so my clients purchased that property from him around 1974. Also in the parking lot is a 5,400 square foot house that was built around circa 1866, so very historic. That was the Colonel and Claudia's residence for 25 years, and it practically sits in the parking lot of this 25,000 square foot restaurant. And so he and Claudia were moving out on the very day that my clients were moving in to take possession. And this was a collection of his possessions that were left behind for them. There was always an open door policy. He could come back and get anything that he wanted after he had left, and he just never did. So we had some amazing things on the auction block last night, never before seen by the public.
What were some of the things, and what did they end up going for?
So one of those was his black string tie, which, believe it or not, was a clip-on. I'm sure he had a lot of those in his possession, but there was one in particular that was left behind. That one went for about $7,000, I believe. I don't have the exact totals in front of me. I apologize. There was a day planner, and this one had a lot of publicity around it because one of the pages of it did have 11 herbs and spices and their measurements on it, and was subject to a 2001 lawsuit with KFC where they determined it wasn't the recipe that we all know and love. But, you know, of course, we don't have anything to base that on, but that's what they say, so we're taking their word for it. And that one went for $30,000. We also had celebrity chef Alton Brown. He was bidding on a lot of items, and one of the notable things that he got was engraved carving set from the Colonel that he used to use to carve up his chicken while he was driving around trying to franchise the brand.
In that planner, the 11 herbs and spices that aren't the actual recipe, does it stand to reason that it was an early concoction, an early attempt at the recipe? I mean, I feel like you're not going to randomly just have 11 herbs and spices in a day planner for no particular reason unless it was an early draft at that chicken recipe.
Yeah, based on the date, it's a little suspicious. It does come after you think that he would have solidified the recipe. I believe the date was 1964. You know, maybe he was testing his memory, making sure that he's not losing it and still remembered what it was. But, you know, even today, Claudia Sanders, they use recipes because everything in there is made by hand from scratch on a daily basis using all of the Colonel's recipes, even for green beans. And they use his chicken recipe still to today. But, you know, they don't claim that that's the original recipe. So he was constantly improving himself. Maybe he was tweaking it just a little bit.
Was there anything else? I'm fascinated with this day planner. Was there anything else in that day planner that was of interest or was of note to people?
You know, if he consistently used it, that would have been really helpful. But, you know, it's not like a journal where you just pick up where you left off. Instead, you know, it has the dates all the way around it. So it looks like he picked it up about halfway through the year. And then from that point forward, filled in about half of the days. But he talked about his travel, whether he was recording jingles or commercials, flights that he took, where he ate, how much he paid, how much tip he left, who he was visiting with. So the information that's in there is fascinating. I just wish there was a little bit more of it.
Obviously, Colonel Sanders, an honorary Kentucky colonel, and is it right that there was like the certificate that was sort of bestowing upon him that honorary colonel status?
Yes, yeah, that it's a title that's given out by our governor probably about 5,000 times a year. I'm a colonel myself. And so he was originally made a colonel in the 1930s, but never took it seriously, didn't add it to his name yet. But he was a marketing genius. So as KFC took off and he really embodied that persona with his white suit, that black string tie, had what I refer to as his Colonel glow up, then he started using the name. But before then, it was kind of a joke because, if you tell somebody you're a colonel or call me Colonel Clunk, they're going to say, "Oh, were you in the military?" Well, no, I wasn't in particular. So, why the title? But because of his marketing genius, he just leaned into it, adopted the name, and the certificate that we had was from 1955 when Governor Weatherby gave it to him again. And this time it was really memorializing what he was doing for the state, for the Commonwealth, because he really put us on the map. To this day, when I travel globally and I tell people I'm from Kentucky, the only reason that they even know what that is, let alone where it is, because I don't think they do, is because of Kentucky Fried Chicken and its huge global footprint.
Jonathan, I think you're selling yourself short. Colonel Clunk sounds awesome. And the way
Doesn't
that
it?
I would walk around telling everyone that was my official name. I'm really curious.
Today forward.
From now on, exactly right. Whenever you guys are sort of kind of looking at everything that you have and you're kind of determining something's worth. I mean, who knows what Colonel Sanders' bolo tie? I mean, I wouldn't know where to begin. How do you guys determine what the starting bid actually is?
We started, most of these bids at $50 or $100, and they went up from there. And then once you hit a certain number, then your bid increments increase. So what we did was pre-auction bidding. We opened it up on July 6th for bidding, and just before the live auction started, we closed that online bidding, and we like to use that number as our jump-off point. So, it was up to, I think, $4,000 or $5,000 before we started the auction. That tells us also which items are receiving the most attention, because what auctions do is they uncover value. It's not an appraisal. It's not an opinion of value. It's saying based on the 500 or 600 people that we have that are interested in this auction and these items, who is willing to pay the most and what is that amount? And that is what auction is so good about doing. Just like with Sotheby's auctions, they have a Picasso painting there and they say, we estimate this value to be about $60 million, but it might still sell for 120 million because that's what somebody is willing to pay for it. So one-of-a-kind things are very difficult to price, especially if you don't have any historical precedent for it. You have to find the next closest thing from the next equal celebrity.
You mentioned celebrity chefs wanting to take part in this, because one of my questions leading off was, listen, it would be very cool, obviously, to have a bolo tie that belonged to Colonel Sanders, but one of my first questions was, who is spending tens of thousands of dollars on these things? Is it mostly people involved in the culinary world?
It's museums. It's franchise owners. One of the biggest participants that we had yesterday, I was on the phone placing bids for them. They were involved, or their parents were involved in that initial sale from Colonel Sanders of $2 million, essentially creating the Kentucky Fried Chicken Corporation. So it's been a big part of his life for a very long time. He has, a little bit of a museum that's going on there. It's going to go into private collections. People with more money than God, what do they spend their money on? Priceless things that are fun to share stories about at cocktail parties. So some of it went there. Some of it likely went to Yum, because we had a lot of documents and various things involve contracts. So it becomes part of their corporate legacy and library as well.
You mentioned franchise owners. Does that mean that there could be a KFC somewhere in the country that might be able to display a Colonel Sanders item like a museum piece?
If they have rotating collections, they might want to put it in there. A lot of times it's just at their corporate headquarters. There are franchise operators out there who have 400 to 800 Kentucky Fried Chicken locations around the globe. So they have big populations of employees and people who visit. And so it's nice to just have a little company archive or museum right there in the lobby or in a conference room in the CEO's office. And obviously, these things are going to mean the most to these people because if you look at the collection, it isn't a standout. You don't walk in and feel impressed. But when you hear the story behind each piece and exactly what it means, it adds so much more value and texture and layers to what these pieces are. So it's going to have to go to the people who appreciate them the most, and it's the people who are most connected to the brand.
Fair enough. Colonel Jonathan Klunk, we appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. This has been really fascinating, and best of luck to you, sir. We'll talk with you soon.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, guys, we're going to roll on really quick. The Federal Reserve Board Chairman Kevin Warsh is speaking now following a Federal Open Market Committee meeting. Let's listen in.
Performance of the Federal Reserve. Today, as you know, our committee decided to vote by a 9-3 vote to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 3.5% to 3.75%. The committee is continuing its policy of making ample reserves in the banking system. The economy is showing impressive resilience. Even with recent shocks, the trends are positive and reveal solid growth. Job gains have kept pace with the workforce, and the unemployment rate has changed little. Inflation remains elevated relative to the committee's 2% goal. The committee remains resolute. You've heard this before, but we will deliver price stability. As before, the policy statement conveys just the facts. It's steering clear of forecasting, a choice we consider especially prudent at these uncertain times. Uncertainty, however, does not mean a lack of clarity. For some households, businesses, and market professionals, 5 years of high inflation have left a mistaken impression that's hard to shake, that the Fed's implicit inflation target was somehow above 2%. Let me reiterate, there is no soft inflation target. There is no soft implicit target, not on this committee's watch. There's only a target, and it's 2%. Not one of my FOMC colleagues is under any illusion. We have begun a new chapter, and we understand that the 5+ years of inflation above target cannot be cured in 9 weeks or by a single month of modest price decreases. This Fed will not waver. Our credibility rests on performing our duties and delivering on our responsibilities. Americans are right to expect that because our nation's prosperity depends on it. To the regulars here in the press room, today's assessment might sound familiar, yet there was nothing inertial about our discussions, our policy, or our strategy. 2 economic developments are worth highlighting. The first is a very notable change since our last meeting 42 days ago. Nominal and real yields are materially higher across the Treasury curve. In fact, some of the increases in market interest rates between FOMC meetings are among the most significant in the last 2 decades, ranking around the top decile or so. But if the committee didn't change its policy rate, what happened? In the intermeeting period, market attention centered on real data and real economic developments. Prices reacted in real time to incoming information, and the reduction in forward guidance may have been a factor. Market participants are learning to play the ball, not the referee, and market prices will continue to respond in the direction and magnitude they see fit. This is, in my view, a change for the better, and we're just getting started. After all, the central bank need not always and everywhere be the center of attention. I understand the desire for rolling forecasts and commentary from this committee, but for our part, we need to observe market reaction to developments, direct and unfiltered. I want to stress, of course, that decisions by this committee matter a great deal, and where necessary and appropriate, we will not hesitate to act. A second economic development is one that I noted at the congressional oversight hearings this month. but it's worth repeating. The most striking feature of the economy is the strong growth of business investment. The surge in high-tech CapEx has been remarkable, but that does not necessarily make the Fed's role any easier. In the AI-related category of high-tech equipment and software, the most recent data shows four-quarter growth rates of nearly 20%. This is helping to sustain the healthy momentum of manufacturing output. More generally, CapEx is preparing the ground for future growth. Nonetheless, the precise timing and magnitude of effects on the supply side remain hard to predict. FOMC meetings produce policy decisions, but just as important is candid discussion of the big things that matter most. That too is a priority in this new chapter at the Fed. In our meeting, vigorous discussion centered on four questions, which I will enumerate. First, we talked a lot about the implications of the past 5 years of high inflation on the current policy conjuncture. To echo an old phrase, has the past really passed? Second, my colleagues and I considered the economic shocks of recent years, strained supply chains arising from the pandemic, military conflicts, energy supply disruptions, substantial increases in tariff rates, and yes, the surge in AI-related investment. These differ in their sources. Do they also differ in their effects on output and employment? Third, we took up the related question of price increases arising from shocks. The business CapEx boom, for example, is driving up prices of memory and logic chips and associated AI infrastructure. Do these changes indicate a broader inflationary dynamic, or do we just focus on them because they are under the bright streetlight? Finally, we discuss monetary policy tools and strategies for achieving stable prices. If, as the Fed has long held, interest rate policy should be its primary monetary policy instrument, how much accommodation are we getting from the balance sheet? In all of this, our work is advancing at the Fed. We're asking the right questions. And in this consequential time, we know how very much depends on getting the right answers. Of course, you've all arrived with questions of your own, so let's turn to them now.
Let's start with Steve.
Thank you for taking our questions, Mr. Chairman. Sure. You've had a couple months now, or 9 weeks, or whatever number it is, to see the markets behave in the absence of forward guidance. I'm wondering if you could tell me, what message are you getting from the markets as to where policy ought to be right now?
Yeah, so I think officially it's 8 weeks and 4 days, but I'm not counting. The message from markets is the message from markets. What I've really been trying to do, Steve, as I think you appreciate, your colleagues appreciate, is getting an unfiltered message from markets, getting a direct message, letting buyers and sellers meet at prices for treasuries, for the foreign exchange value of the dollar, and then trying to judge for ourselves, what does that mean about our remit? How are we doing on inflation? How are we doing on employment? We're trying not to interfere with that market signal. That's part of the reason why we've been somewhat spare in our words, why we pulled back from forward guidance. So they're reacting to events, I would say, much more directly over the 42 days since we last met. This is a good thing. As I mentioned in the prepared remarks, we've seen a material tightening, not just in nominal rates, but in real rates too. And we're observing it. We're trying to stay out of that because, many of you might be interested in our reaction function. We're interested in the reaction of financial markets.
I get that, Mr. Chairman, and I guess the follow-up question is, if the markets are talking to you, what do you hear them saying? And if it's real rates are higher, it would suggest that that's where the funds rate ought to go.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
I'm sorry, it's your question. So interpreting markets is an imperfect business. We central bankers like market pros can think these things are overdetermined, but let me offer some speculation. First, as we said in the FOMC statement that you got at 2 o'clock, the economy output is solid. CapEx and productivity are strong. Labor market's solid, steady. The bond market, the treasury market, it seems to be saying that as well. If I were to try to break down, disaggregate the treasury market signals, I wouldn't be able to do it perfectly, but the bond market's saying many of those same things, and that's why we're seeing a tightening both in nominals and in reals. Even while at some level we haven't done much in 42 days, the markets have done quite a bit.
Claire Jones, Financial Times. You seem to have got the family fight you were after at this meeting. We saw three dissents. Could you characterize the arguments that those dissenters put forward, please, and tell us a little bit why you weren't persuaded by them at this stage? Thank you.
So I guess I shouldn't give you their best arguments. I'll give you some others. So you're right. I asked for a good family fight and I got one. That's the purpose. That's the design feature. I come into this meeting, even this press conference, heartened by what I've experienced the last 2 days. Most of our discussion were on the big questions that matter to the conduct of monetary policy. We didn't sort of hide from them. We weren't scared of them. There was a lot more interaction between and among my colleagues. It was a real family fight. My view, which you've long heard, is that's the better way to get policy right. That's our North Star. So there was a lot of agreement that I heard that we have the powers, the tools, also the authority to deliver stable prices. No walking back from our responsibilities. There was a large majority support for the decision that we made in the room. But I also want to leave you, Claire, with one other impression. There was nothing inertial about that discussion. It was an active, robust discussion about what's in the full range of what we can do and might want to do in the period ahead. You characterized accurately there was a disagreement about a decision today. I would say that doesn't sort of capture the full essence of the discussion. The path to central bank heaven requires delivering on our remit. These days, that means delivering on price stability. I wouldn't measure that path in 42 days or any one particular meeting. And I came out of that meeting even more confident that this is the right team to win the battle against high inflation.
How much do you think not going in July was down to the cool CPI print for June?
So in 2 words, not much. Not much. I'd like to believe that the committee shares my views, which is the historic problem with data dependence is the data and the dependence. We are not relying on any one individual piece of data as cover or as an excuse or as validation. What I care about and what I think the committee cares about is trends on the data. Sure, we got some encouraging inflation data. I think at the meeting 42 days ago, I said something like 63 months of inflation above target. I didn't say 64, though the final calculation might be a close one. So we'll be watching inflation data over the period ahead, but I also don't want you to leave the misimpression that we're sort of breathlessly waiting that. I've called for a task force to revisit both the private and public data we use to make our decision making. That task force is out doing their work. I'll be checking back in with them the next couple of weeks, but I wouldn't say we overly relied on any one piece of data, including that data, which surprised some a couple of weeks ago.
All right, welcome back, 146. This is a story that many people behind the scenes here at Chicago Live have been looking forward to all day. So here's the deal. California researchers are turning to OnlyFans as their funding dries up, but it's not exactly what you think. Daniel Blumstein is a professor in the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology at UCLA, and he oversees one of the longest running studies of free-living mammals in the world, and they focus on yellow-bellied marmots in central Colorado, and he's turned to OnlyFans for a little bit of help in regards to their funding. Daniel, congratulations. You might be the most anticipated segment of the day, sir.
Thank you much. Thanks for having me.
All right, so take me back to the beginning. Obviously, funding is tough in universities and colleges around the country. Tell me a little bit about what it is that you focus on, the challenges that you faced in regards to funding, and how you came up with this very unique solution.
We run a long-term study, long-term field study, and we have about a 5-month field season where people have to be out in the field collecting data on marmots, watching their daily lives. It's a soap opera. It's kind of fun, but it's a lot of work. And I've really been struggling. I had 11 years of NSF support through a long-term project, and that dried up. We tried to get renewals. We were getting turned down. At one point, our program officer said to my colleague, we're never going to fund you. We think you have too much data. So for a program that studies and funds long-term ecological research, that's a preposterous statement. We've been trying other creative things. We, collaborate. We do all sorts of other stuff. But my wife and I watched Marco's Got Money Troubles, the Apple TV show about a single mother who goes on to OnlyFans to make money to raise her kid. And I spent a lot of time sitting in meadows looking at nothing, waiting for marmots to emerge. And instead of thinking about solving some of my, scientific problems, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, maybe we should launch, an OnlyFans site and share all these new videos we're collecting, because we're putting game cameras out and we're really seeing more than we normally see about the inner lives of marmots. And it's like, okay, great. So I go back to the lab and I say, maybe we should use some of these videos and post them on an OnlyFans site. And one of my students yells, "Only Marms," and another student yells, "Great idea, let's do it." And another student goes, "Ugh." So basically the student who was excited about it, who's collecting all these videos, created this OnlyFans site and said, "Okay, you got to put your social security number and credit card details in now." And I'm like, so I did. And I was denied because my picture, they age verify everybody, my picture on my license didn't match the picture of the marmot. So I waited a few days thinking about what am I really getting into. And I wrote back to OnlyFans and explained what we were doing to raise money for the project. And that, I don't look like any of our animals. They don't have driver's licenses and they're all minors anyway. Our oldest marmot is 16. And they said, okay. So then we started posting videos. And, the videos are cute and we're seeing all sorts of new things and we're sharing them. We do a lot of scientific outreach. But, this story is really more about our problems getting money, which are profound. It's really about the problems of long-term ecological research being funded, which is a real shame.
I'm very grateful that no picture of a marmot matched your photo. That would have been a little insulting if it had actually sort of checked out and went through. My girlfriend and I actually watched the first couple of episodes of Margot's Got Money Troubles, and that was the first thing I thought of whenever I heard about this story. And it brings up a sort of a wider point that maybe people are unfamiliar with. Like, yes, OnlyFans typically tends to be associated with adult content, but there are other creators of other things involved with OnlyFans that have found a way to kind of utilize this concept. Is that right?
Yeah, there are other platforms out there as well, I now know. But I've watched some surf videos on OnlyFans. I'm not watching anything else, but I've watched some surf videos on OnlyFans, big wave surfers. So yeah, it's a way for people to produce content and share it with others and hopefully get monetized. And the people that are donating to us are really generous. Some people don't want to touch it, and we finally figured out how UCLA can collect small donations, which was the barrier before. So people can donate to UCLA and basically target my lab and target the Marmot project. And this is something that is brand new. Until very recently, UCLA wasn't allowing us to do that. So some people might want to go into OnlyFans and see the videos, which are super cute, and learn about marmots. We sort of view this as another audience, another community to engage with public outreach. We do a lot of public outreach in our lab. We're running a Fat Marmot Week this year. I've been wanting to do this for years, but we don't have the capacity. My grad students are like, no, we're going to do it. And I go, but we're exhausted by the end of the year. And they're like, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. So they're doing it. And on August 24th, people will start voting for our marmots, and we're introducing them now. But all of this, again, is to share insights from our research, insights about the cool species, insights about a cool phenomena, hibernation, and have a little body positivity in the process.
Daniel, every time you answer one of my questions, all it does is yield like 15 other more questions for you. Let's go back to the donations. For people that are sort of unfamiliar with how this works, the idea is that maybe someone comes across your videos, they think it's cool, they think it's funny, they love the purpose of it, and then they basically, leave like a tip? Can you explain how that works?
So OnlyFans allows you to have subscriptions where people subscribe and then get it, or have your video up there and then get tips. We've elected to make it free. We think we want to share this stuff. We want to excite people, and people have been giving us tips. A lot of tips are $5, $10, $20. We've had $200 tips and $100 tips. And, it sort of was a slow start, but since this press blitz, we've gotten about $3,000.
Wow.
Every penny. What we really need is about $100,000. And the federal government used to provide that level of money, and so this, to run long-term research, it requires people in the field. And the sort of double whammy is the lack of funding is reducing the number of graduate students that universities can afford. Our own department lost a third of our TA-ships. TA-ships are ways to support graduate students, and UCLA and our department are reducing the number of graduate students. I might get a graduate student in our department every 3 or 4 years, and that's not enough to keep this study going. $100,000 a year, I can buy in highly qualified students. But that sort of money is chump change for biomedical stuff, but is a lot of money for ecological field research. And these long-term studies are what you need if you want to understand how organisms, whether they're marmots or other animals or plants, adapt to a changing environment.
And Daniel, that brings about a bigger conversation, because as fun as this story was to tease, as funny as it was to sort of get in and talk about and kind of get the details of, it is indicative of major funding issues that are widespread in regards to colleges and universities around this country, right? Like, at the end of the day, this story only exists because of hardships. And are you sort of hoping that, yes, it's fun to sort of talk about this and sort of laugh about it and joke at the pictures and everything, but it's only happening because something bad is happening?
We shouldn't have to be doing this. And as Arlo Guthrie said in Alice's Restaurant, this isn't a song about Alice. So yeah, hopefully at some point, our country will reassess priorities and realize the value of long-term ecological research.
I want you to, if you don't mind, take me to the moment you went to UCLA, an amazing establishment for education, like one of the most respected establishments for education in the country. And you went to them and you said, guys, listen to me. Couple of words for you. Marmots only fans. What was the initial reaction you actually got from your school?
Well, this is a case of act first and ask questions later. So I didn't go to anybody. We just put it up. They're very excited. It's getting a lot of press, and it's getting press about the broader issue, and you and other journalists are getting the broader issue. We shouldn't have to be doing this, as my student Emily said on other TV interview. This is ridiculous. I should be, helping my students work and writing papers, not coming up with, crackpot ways to get more money. But this is where we are right now. And I think we all see value in this particular study and long-term research in general, and we're working hard to keep it going. And people are getting that, and people are incredibly generous, and that's really wonderful.
You mentioned $3,000 raised so far, which is fantastic, but you also mentioned that you need about $100,000. Are there I hate to say, are there other plans, are there other ideas cooking, because this is already a great one that's doing well, but are there, you can't have 100,000 without getting 3,000 first, but are there plans to get you the rest of the way?
Don't know, but several people have created meme coins apparently, and my colleague who helps me run the thing, Julian, claimed the wallet for one of them, and apparently we've raised $6,000 from a meme coin. So I don't know, these are crazy times. Maybe we'll be able to get commercial sponsorship. We've been trying to get Marmot, the Marmot company to sponsor us. They don't answer our emails. So if anyone knows Marmot, please reach out and maybe they can help us out. But institutional commercial sponsorships would be great. $50,000, $100,000 for Marmot every year really, in some sense, is a drop in the bucket to support something that is near and dear to their hearts.
It's a great pitch. I love that. I do have a question for you because I would love to see the pictures of the marmots and the pictures of the videos. The last thing I want to do is accidentally stumble across an OnlyFans page on my work computer or on my personal phone and have it messed with my algorithm in any of that sense. Is there a way to zero in and find your content without having to necessarily type in onlyfans.com?
No, and that's a challenge. And not only that, you have to log in and create an account if you want to watch OnlyFans. So the fact that UCLA came up with a way to collect donations is great. We do, however, have a lot of content posted on our Instagram. We're putting most of the videos on OnlyFans, but we have some videos and we have a lot of other fun stuff that we're posting on Instagram, and that's free. And if that'll change your algorithm in a good way.
Talk to me. If someone just says, listen, I love this mission, I love what you guys are doing, I don't want to sign up for OnlyFans, but I would love to help you out. Is there another way that people can go about doing that?
Yeah, check out our website at UCLA or Google, Marmots RMBL or Marmots UCLA, and there'll be a donation link there that will go directly to UCLA. It will be a tax-deductible donation.
I know we talked a little bit about some of the images that you guys put up there, and they all sound amazing. If you're unfamiliar with what a marmot looks like, look it up. It's the best. It's going to make your day. Can you just sell us a little bit on just how cute marmots really are?
Well, they are cute, and they're getting quite fat now. The idea of a marmot
Don't fat shame them, Daniel. Don't call them out on television like that.
No, they're chunky is good. They survive if they're rotund, and when they look like a bread loaf, that means they're going to probably survive hibernation. And we got some bread loaves in the making right now. But I mean, they're about a soccer ball-sized mammal. They're the largest of the ground squirrels. They're the largest of the true hibernators. There's 15 species of them that live around the northern hemisphere. Over the years, I've studied 8 of the 15, but now I'm really putting my efforts into keeping this long-term project going.
Well, we need to keep this going because you have completely sold me, my friend. How often, I'd imagine that your students, yes, I love what one of your students said, that you shouldn't have to do this. But I'd imagine that there is an excitement there. I mean, in a fun way, like if Margot's Got Money Troubles didn't exist, instantly my mind would go, this has got to be a TV show. There should be a behind-the-scenes making of you guys doing this.
Yeah, our students are so creative. I have an incredible field crew out here this year. Some people are using software to make funny, videos out of stills and videos they might take. People are getting great pictures of marmots for both our Fat Marmot Week thing and as well as our Instagram. And also sometimes they're being able to get close enough to the marmots. We spend a lot of time out in the field watching the marmots. So everyone loves the marmots. We have a good time with them. We respect them. We cheer for them. They have a hard life. We also launched a Marmot Tears beer. So we call ourselves Marmot Tears, but this is Marmot Tears. And it's Marmot Tears because the world's changing and life's getting harder for the marmots. And we were hoping to get some proceeds from that, but it was a special beer created by the Irwin Brewing Company in Crested Butte.
Wait, where can we find this beer? Is it all sold out?
I think everyone from Chicago has to go and send a message to Irwin Brewing Company in Crested Butte, Colorado, and say, please make more. It was a special release. And it's good beer. It's a nice IPA.
Listen, I'm not going to speak on behalf of all people in the city of Chicago, but we like a beer, my friend. So if you can get it out our way, I promise you, someone here is going to drink it. Daniel, one more time, really quick, let people know where they can. Wait a second, Daniel. I don't know if you can see the screen right now, man, and we don't mean to be giving away the goods for free. But if
those aren't our marmots, go to our Instagram page. It's very cute.
Okay,
some of those are our marmots.
We want people to check out everything you guys have, whether it be on your very specific OnlyFans page, Only Marms. We want to clarify that, Only Marms, but then
Only
also
Marms.
your Instagram page as well. Daniel Blumstein, this has been a really great conversation. I want to echo the sentiment. I agree with the student. I do hate that you have to do this, but if you had to do it, I'm really glad that you joined us to talk with us about it.
Well, thanks for your interest and support. And the bottom line is long-term research is important. Marmots are cute. Let's have fun with it.
We appreciate you. Daniel, thank you for your time, sir.
Bye.
All right. Just after 2 o'clock, Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back. back. 2:03 on Chicago Live. We've got good news and we've got bad news. The bad news is that we're having to say goodbye to 2 gorillas at Brookfield Zoo. The good news is that we've got 2 other gorillas that are going to be making their way here a little bit later this summer. So let's bring in Kim Skelton, the Director of Primate Care and Conservation at Brookfield Zoo, Chicago. Kim, good to see you. Thank you for the time.
Nice. Yeah, nice to chat with you.
You as well. So first of all, tell us, we're saying goodbye to Kamba and Nora. Tell us what are the circumstances? What's causing us to say goodbye to them?
Yeah, so AZA zoos or accredited zoos across North America all work together to ensure that we have healthy gorilla populations. And this was a recommendation by that group of scientists and professionals within the field. And they're giving us an opportunity to send out our 2 females, get 2 new females in, and that's going to help our breeding population. So our Kamba and Nora potentially will have kids in the future, and then we'll also be able to explore breeding opportunities here at Brookfield Zoo, Chicago.
Is that something that up to this point hasn't really been an option at Brookfield Zoo? Is that something you guys are looking to start to integrate into your program?
That's a great question. So historically, we have had gorilla offspring. We have not had that opportunity because Jantu, our current silverback that runs our troop, is related to our group of females. Imagine him as just like a distant cousin. So we're hoping to bring in the new females and start up that breeding program all over again. So just a reminder that Kamba and Nora and Allie were all girls that were born here at Brookfield.
And where will they be sent?
They're headed off to Como Park Zoo. They'll be heading out on their adventure relatively soon, and guests still have an opportunity to come here and see them while they're still on site.
And how long have they been at the zoo? You said that they were born there, right? So how long have they been there?
Yeah, Kamba's 21. She
wow.
was born September 1st, 2004, and Nora is 12, so November 4th of 2013. So they've spent quite a few years here, and they've been part of our new Branson Tropical Forest expansion. So they've had quite a bit of excitement over the last few years, and just another really exciting opportunity for them.
And how much longer do people have to check them out?
I would recommend coming soon, and guests can still come visit and say goodbye over the next few days. But we're working diligently to get them crate trained and participate in their shipment, and making that as smooth as possible. So, come on out and visit them within the next few days.
What is that journey like whenever they're traveling from Brookfield Zoo to their next home? What is that like? How does that work?
Yeah, every shipment is different. It could be that we're doing a ground transport. It could be they're traveling by plane. Since this one's pretty short, we have the option of doing a ground transport. What's really nice is to kick it all off, we work with the gorillas to get them to either crate or participate in voluntary trading behaviors to be able to make that transition as smooth and easy as possible for them. So we work not just with the gorillas that are moving out, but our entire troop, and ensuring that they're able to just kind of work through things themselves and participate in medical procedures and all sorts of stuff. So every shipment is different, but overall I would say that they're going to be great. Yeah.
Tell me about the new arrivals that are coming in. Where are they coming from, and when can we expect them?
So Kamina and Zahara will arrive later this summer. We're hoping to get them acclimated and integrated into the family group pretty seamlessly. Jantu's got a big job in front of him. He's our silverback. He's going to help the girls hopefully adapt to their new environment and then meet our current females. So hopefully later this summer we'll see them on habitat, and it's all going to be based on whatever the gorillas tell us they're ready for.
So how does that work? Can you talk to me about the acclimation process and sort of what is required to kind of make sure everyone's living in a copacetic way?
Yeah, it can be pretty challenging. Gorillas can be pretty noisy when they're meeting new family members or new group members. It can be pretty exciting for not just the gorillas, but for guests as well. We're hoping that we get John 2 and the two new females together pretty easily. And then it's kind of his job to help them integrate and meet the new girls. So if there's ever scuffles or disagreements, John 2's job is to jump in and help out and kind of break those arguments up. So he's essentially our kindergarten teacher, making sure everyone's playing by the rules.
Fair enough. Can you tell us a little bit more about your silverback gorilla? How old is he, and how long has he been with you guys?
John 2's been with us for quite a while. He's a big boy. I'm sorry, his age is escaping me right now. But he's a great silverback. He's just over 500 pounds. This is his first group of females that he's ever managed, and he has adapted to it really nicely. He's a great male that has a lot of patience for the younger ones in the group. And I can say the females just absolutely adore him and are often seen like just sitting near him, or the other day they were just kind of like grooming his head a little bit and being just very sweet and nice with him. He's a great guy, and he's great for our guests to see too. He's such an impressive silverback.
I've been out there, and it is really impressive to see. Speaking of, and I always love sort of bringing this up because I feel like it is a thing that people need to be reminded of. When we're talking about animals, we are very much on their schedule, and we're, they don't march to the beat of our drum. They're living their life. And I have been to zoos before where I expected to see the new animals, and they just didn't come out. They weren't, you can't go knock and say, okay, come on. You guys ever feel like it's an important reminder just to let people know, listen, we've got new animals coming, and it's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. You're going to see them. You're going to love them. But it is entirely possible that the moment that some people go out there is going to be a moment where maybe they're not seen or they're not available.
Yeah, while we strive to get all of our animals out to their habitats every day, gorillas are perfectly capable of making their own decisions. And like I said, John 2 is about 500 pounds. There's no making a silverback gorilla do something he doesn't want to do. So if he chooses to block a door or sit in the way, that's what he's doing for the day. And he, the new girls we're hoping acclimate really smoothly. But if it's really hot out, or if it's raining, or if something's happening out there that they're not too sure of, they may just opt out of going outside that day. And our care staff work really closely with the gorillas on a daily basis to build those relationships and that trust, and help them make good choices. Imagine them more of a life coach than they are anything else. Like, you kind of guide them towards the right decisions and hope for the best.
Kim, listen, my girlfriend and I have an 8-pound Yorkie that very much runs our home. So I'm fully aware of the idea of an animal kind of running the show and calling the shots. Can we give a shout out to, I'd imagine there's an amazing team of caregivers with Brookfield Zoo that help make sure that all of these gorillas are kept up, kept in shape and kept healthy. Can we talk a little bit about their work?
Oh, let's do. Yes.
Tell us a little bit about sort of what's required. What maybe just what an everyday, what did they do today?
Yeah, so every day can be a little bit different because obviously the gorillas, the monkeys, the orangutans, the spider monkeys can all just choose a different path every day if they decide to participate. If they don't decide to participate, all of that is fine. But we have varying shifts that start as early as 6:30 in the morning and end as late as 6:30 in the afternoon. So they typically have a pretty long day, and we, come in and medicate those that need it. Like, for example, we've got a couple diabetic capuchins that need special medication and monitoring. Our gorillas require things like vitamin supplements or birth control or, individual training sessions. And, then they also head outside and manage the yards and take care of all of the outdoor guest spaces that those animals will be up close and personal with our guests visiting. So it's very variable, but, cleaning's a big part of it. One-on-one time with each one of the animals is a big part of it. Animal observations falls into the day. Guest interactions. It's a pretty variable and exciting day, and we have an amazing group of care staff that just does an amazing job taking care of these magnificent animals.
They do amazing work. Kim Skelton, Director of Primate Care and Conservation at Brookfield Zoo, Chicago. Kim, best of luck with the transition out and the transition in, and we're looking forward to hearing more about it. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, yes.
Take care. All right, guys, Chicago Live rolls on just about 2:14. We'll be right back. .217 on Chicago Live. Listen, obviously, a lot of big stories in the city of Chicago and in our states over the summer. Weather being a massive one. Weather was massive for us just a couple of days ago. And when it comes to really bad, nasty weather, most of us try to steer clear of it. But there are people that head toward it to be able to give us more information about it. Jordan Hall is one of those people. He's the executive assistant of Severe Studios, an extreme storm chaser. Jordan, thank you for taking the time, man. We appreciate you.
No, thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, I was told that you're not actually based out of the state of Illinois, but just because of the amount of weather and the severity of the weather that we've had, that you've basically been here all summer long. Is that right?
I roam everywhere. So fun fact, I was actually on the Gulf Coast for that tropical storm Bertha, and then I had actually overnighted it, chased some severe weather up in Wisconsin, and then as of 2 days ago was down in the Chicago area for that severe. So I kind of roam all over the U.S.
So how does that work? I mean, obviously, sometimes weather can really sneak up on a place and maybe be more severe than we expect. And if something crazy is happening in Illinois and you're on the Gulf Coast, you can't just, snap your fingers and get there. So how far in advance do you kind of have to predict, oh, this might actually be bad, I need to get over there?
Yeah, it really comes down to forecasting, and that's something you have to be really good at if you're going to be a storm chaser. And when I was down on the Gulf Coast covering that tropical storm, there was a signal in the long range models that there could be severe up in like the Wisconsin, the Illinois region. So I at least had a couple day tip off to that, and that's kind of why I was able to get from the Gulf Coast and get all the way up there. But normally, all I really need is about a day or two advance notice for me to actually get into position for those things. But sometimes you can see them almost a week out.
You mentioned forecasting. What's your background?
Fun fact, actually, I went to school for criminal justice, but I had a huge passion in weather. So I got to learn from some of the best forecasters out there, some of other storm chasers who have learned how to forecast tornadoes, especially. And, you kind of get an insight on how to forecast, and you learn over the years, and eventually you can kind of dial it into what exactly you're looking for.
Whenever you get there, whenever you sort of are in the area of severe weather, is it I need to get in the middle of it, or is it watch it safely from a distance?
So I'm one of the more got to be up close and personal kind of people. So I love to get right up on them. Obviously, I don't want to get hurt or put myself in danger, but you do inadvertently put yourself into danger getting close. But I like to get up close, film the events as they happen, especially tornadoes or big wind events like we saw in Chicago. And, be able to be there right after it happens and kind of tell the story, because I think seeing is believing in these situations. It's one thing to tell somebody, yeah, this area got hit by a tornado, and it's another thing to show them the visuals and let them hear the stories of the people who are actually being impacted.
And I want to follow up on that, because I'd imagine that you are constantly surrounded by people that say, why would you put yourself in the middle of this? But there is valuable information to get out of a storm while being in the middle of it. So whenever you are in the middle of very severe weather, what is it that you're actually looking for? What are you hoping to get out of it?
It's a mix, because I obviously am an adrenaline junkie, so I love to just be there, and I love to witness Mother Nature, and it's like rawest form, and sometimes that's tornadoes, sometimes it's hurricanes. But the other side of me too, of being a former first responder, I like being able to be there to help if it's needed. I don't go to these areas just to go, help. It's to go see weather. But if I inadvertently end up helping, that is huge for me, because I know how to help. And, getting the word out. There's a lot of places that you've never heard of that get impacted by weather every day. And then unless somebody like myself is there to kind of show the world, hey, this area is really struggling, nobody would really know. And it's really hard to get those kind of resources in to help those places unless there's somebody there to, let everybody know.
Jordan, did you say that you're a former first responder?
Yeah, I was a firefighter for 6 years in college back in Shadron, Nebraska.
So what have been some of the situations where it's actually been more valuable to have that background than maybe be a storm chaser?
I experienced it multiple times a year. A really big one was the Rolling Fork, Mississippi EF4 tornado that struck at night a few years ago. It was myself and a couple other chasers were the first ones in town, and the fire department and the police department were completely destroyed. So we were the only ones there for at least 40 minutes before first responders were able to get there. So having that background, I always carry trauma kit and first aid kit, and being able to go in and help clear houses and help render aid to those who, are still waiting for the fire department to respond there is huge. And it can be life-saving. I don't like to go out there and say I'm saving lives, but in some situations you definitely can be, and being there is important.
Are you part of a team, or are you just solo?
I'm solo. Yeah, I chase by myself. Sometimes I team up with people, but usually I'm just out there roaming.
Obviously, I mentioned at the top of this that we've had a lot of extreme weather just in our area, in the Chicago area, in the state of Illinois, up north in Wisconsin. What's been your experience in our area so far this year, or even this summer?
It's funny because Illinois has just been a hot spot this year. It just seems like you guys are getting hit with severe weather day in and day out. Every year we always have seems to be a new little hot spot. I know last year was South Dakota and North Dakota. Now this year it's kind of Illinois. So it's always really fun to see how the patterns shift throughout the years and where they all set up. But yeah, Illinois has been a huge hot spot for the severe weather this year.
I've got to ask, do you have members of your family or friends that are constantly asking you, dude, what are you doing, man?
Oh, all the time. I mean, just a week and a half ago, I was in Saipan, which if you don't know where Saipan is, it's a little tiny island north of Guam, trying to get into the path of that Category 5 Super Typhoon Bobby. And usually when I'm doing things like that and doing those crazy trips is when people reach out and are like, what are you doing?
Is there a weather anomaly or something, that you haven't seen with your own eyes yet that is on the bucket list that you just think, I got to see this before I call it a day?
Absolutely. And I would say it's an erupting volcano, not like not like your typical one that just goes off all the time like Hawaii, but like an explosive volcano is always just like, for whatever reason, I just want to hear it and understand, see it with my own eyes.
It's wild to hear you talk about some of these things that you have seen with your own eyes. Have you ever been on side of something, in the middle of something, and maybe it ended up being a little bit more serious or severe than you expected, and you kind of paused and thought to yourself, I may have made a mistake being here?
That definitely happens. It happens more often than not, and that's when you really have to kick in and to your survival instincts and not panic. And I think being a first responder for as many years as I was taught me the skills to de-escalate your mind and really just take a deep breath and only control the controllables. The second you start trying to control things that are out of your control and you start to panic, it is when things really go downhill. And I found myself really close to tornadoes, in the path of tornadoes, and having to make that split-second decision. And that seems to have helped me a lot.
What is the closest you say you've been to a tornado?
Well, I've chased in the Dominator 3 with retimers, so we've actually been inside of them in an armored tank before. So I've been inside of tornadoes. I've been in a normal vehicle, probably within 20 to 30 yards of a really skinny rope tornado. And those bigger ones I try to keep a little bit of distance from because of the wind field, but I get really close, and it's an adrenaline rush for sure.
Now listen, it's one thing to say don't panic while we're doing a live television interview. It's another thing not to panic while you're in a tank inside of a tornado. So in those moments, what actually keeps you from not panicking?
There's a saying, the cameraman never dies, and that's I kind of live by that motto. I'm like, if I'm scared, I'm just gonna keep staring right through the camera, and I'm just gonna live through the camera, and whatever's happening around me, I'm just completely just tone it out.
See, that's another thing I want to ask is that it's one thing to drive through a tornado or be a part of a hurricane, what have you, but then to have sort of the focus to be able to keep it all in frame, not have your hand shaking, to be able to sort of make sure that you get the shot. I mean, is that its own separate set of skills?
It's 100% its own separate skills. And one of the most important things you'll learn is to film horizontally and not vertically. It's a big.
I don't know if you noticed, whenever I held my phone up, I held it that way.
You did a great job. I noticed it right out the gate.
So then talk to me about what it is that you do with that video, because people are fascinated. I mean, if you go on YouTube and look up, tornado footage or hurricane footage or what have you, I mean, we're talking about millions upon millions of views for all of these videos. So what is it that you do with the video?
Yeah, so I have multiple contracts. So I work with a radar company called My Radar. They have access to all my video, but I sell breaking news videos. So if I capture these events, for example, the Chicago area the other day, I did interviews. I droned the tornado damage, and I sell that to national news networks like the Weather Channel, CBS, ABC, any of those big networks. And that's kind of how I make my money. And then also on social media, getting the social media revenue is there, but I think the biggest thing for me is actually being able to share the stories and get them out there, because it's like I said earlier, just knowing it's happening is so big. But it's definitely the video sales aspect, and then the stock video down the road when you have the Discovery Channel or any of these documentary companies that come looking for video. That's when that video will have value again if it's a big event.
What's been probably the most valuable video that you've taken in your career?
Wow, what a question that is. I would say it was probably that rolling fork experience that I was talking to you about. I was the first drone video to actually be on, like the first drone video during the daylight to show the real impacts of that storm. And that was stolen millions of times.
And you mentioned drones. I'd imagine the technology that you're using is constantly evolving. I mean, I know we probably weren't talking about, drone footage of storms, a decade, maybe 15 years ago, but now I'd imagine the different tools that you're using are constantly updating and changing.
Yeah, it's a constantly evolving world because like now we got drones, now we have these like really good cameras, and honestly, it's honing in on what works and not getting too caught up in always having the new technology, which can be tricky sometimes.
And you mentioned that a massive part of your job is sort of forecasting and looking forward to what the next severe event might be. It is Wednesday, July 29th. It's about 2:30 Chicago time. Right now, what are you looking at? What would be the next thing that would get you on a plane?
I would say the next thing that would get me on a plane is the chances that typhoon that's out in the Western Pacific going towards Japan. That's my next thing. But odds are I'm honestly just trying to get a break. I think the last 8 days I've driven 6,400 miles. So
wow.
It's nice being home for a few days.
So, I've talked a lot about sort of the severe weather that you've looked at across our area and across our state and even sort of stateside, but you're traveling worldwide for these things.
Yeah, I do international typhoons and hurricane coverage as well. So earlier this year, I did a tropical cyclone in Northwest Australia. I did that tropical typhoon Bavi in the Northern Marianas Islands over there near Rota and Guam. So yeah, I travel all over the world and cover, some of the most extreme events possible.
And can you let people know where they can see some of your footage?
Absolutely. You can follow me on social media. It's just Storm Chaser Jordan Hall on all platforms, and Jordan Hall WX is the username on those.
Jordan, you must have one hell of a frequent flyer account, man.
Hey, I started it a few years ago. We're getting somewhere, I think.
All right. Jordan Hall, Executive Assistant, Severe Studios, Extreme Storm Chaser, and multimedia journalist. Jordan, stay safe out there, man. All right, we'll talk with you soon.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, guys, a little after 2:30, Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to 32 on Chicago Live. Listen, for those of us that live for football, today is a very big day. I have already received multiple text messages from my fantasy football commissioner about the fact that we need to get moving. And that's because for a lot of teams, Training camp is starting, and of course, right here for us, the Bears day one. Bears training camp kicking off. We're talking with Devin Caney all about it. Devin's out there. Devin, what's up? Devin, we have to hear what you're saying, and you're muted. Hold on. Are you with us yet? There we go. We got you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I'm not out there anymore because they had a very early day today. So I'm freshly home from training camp, but it was a very exciting day. Got to see the guys not fully suited up, but still somewhat suited up and out there practicing on the fields at Hallis Hall today.
Devin, what were you looking for whenever you went out there to sort of see maybe what some of the initial impressions were going to be?
I think the big, overall storyline is, can Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson lead this team and this offense in particular to not just a repeat of last season, but to be legitimate contenders this season? Because we saw sparks of it. Of course, they won the NFC North last season. They went to the postseason, fell short, but they already exceeded every expectation I think most people had for them last season. And the overall messaging today, and we heard from Ben Johnson yesterday morning, today we heard from Caleb Williams, among others, was, this is a new season. This is a fresh start. It's a new team, essentially. Yes, we won more than we had previously last season, but we're not really trying to build off of that. We're trying to start new here and just be a better team now. And I think that was reflected in every person who spoke today. We heard from defensive coordinator Dennis Allen as well earlier this morning. And it's just this cool sense of confidence that exudes from everyone who we talked to today.
Devin, I'm really curious, with it being day one, what is the balance between, hey, I noticed things and these are legit impressions that could be indicative of things to come down the road, versus we're just knocking off cobwebs and let them warm up for a bit?
Yeah, I think with training camp, you just mentioned your fantasy football league. A lot of people like to track stats, if you will, from training camp. Caleb Williams dropped or threw an interception, or Luther Burden dropped a pass. These are all hypotheticals, by the way. Please don't panic. But I'm just saying, it was only the first day of training camp, the first day these guys were even out there, and we were able to watch and hear from some of the players and coaches. So I try to not read too much into it. Like, for example, Caleb said that he had some miscommunication with some of the guys on the O-line today because they're rusty. They're going to have to shake off rust. He also has a new center that he's going to have to learn how to work with both on and off the field. So it's all a learning curve. And we also heard from safety Kobe Bryant today, who came over from the Seahawks. So fresh off a Super Bowl championship, he brings a lot of wisdom and leadership. And he was saying what he's preaching to the younger players, and I almost feel this way as well, covering the team. It's only day one. You got to, you might be having a lot of energy, a lot of fun out there. You might want to get it all out now, but talk to me again in a week. Talk to me again in 2 weeks, because training camp is long, it's hot, and it is hard. So you kind of have to take it day by day and not read too much into one play, one moment, one exercise, whatever it may be.
Devin, you actually set me up perfectly. This is the first time we've really been able to talk or do a segment together.
I know.
You're brand new to the team and you're crushing it. So are you relating to some of these new Bears players out there that are, trying to look around and figure out the sort of the dynamics of everything?
Yeah, I guess in a way, I am. You have to learn a new team. I'm looking down at my player sheet because this time of year is always difficult, even when you are familiar with the team, because it's not just the 53-man roster, right? And that's what's cool about this time of year, and especially preseason games. Some people might say they're boring, and yet the stakes aren't as high as they are in a regular season game. But you get to watch guys, playing for a position, playing for a spot on the roster. So really just kind of learning the ins and outs, and it's been a lot easier than I honestly expected coming from Philadelphia. I see a lot of similarities between the two teams, especially when it comes to Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson and their dynamic. Even though Bears fans might not want to hear this, I do feel like there are some similarities between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. I see the way that they work off each other, the way that Caleb almost seems like the calming presence, where Ben is more of the intense one who's pushing them as he should be because he's the head coach, but they both are just focused on one thing. And Caleb Williams echoed it today in his press conference. They both just want to bring a championship to Chicago.
And Devin, you mentioned, for a lot of these players, some of them are a little rusty and you got to kind of knock that off. And that's understandable, with it being day one. How long do you give a player before that's not an excuse anymore?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it probably depends on the player, and it probably depends on their position and situation. So, for example, like quarterback, I thought Ben Johnson put it perfectly, and he actually meant this for coaches and players as well, but especially as it pertains to Caleb Williams, where, learning a new playbook, learning a new scheme. Ben said last year it was like they were all speaking different languages and trying to understand each other. And now they're at a point, at least with the guys who have been here since last year, like Caleb Williams and the coaching staff, where they're basically reading each other's minds, right? Like they're fluent in that language. So I think if it's, and this is a complete hypothetical, but like a quarterback and they're learning a new system, then you have to give them a little bit more grace. Where if it's someone who's coming off of an injury and they're coming in and like they're not, or someone who's had issues with staying in shape and they're coming in and they're looking like they're not really keeping up with everything that's going on, well, then you're not going to have as much grace. So you can usually tell, who's in it and who knows that they're probably not going to make a spot on the roster, but they're fighting for it anyways. But again, you try not to read too much into it. I would say things don't get nitty and gritty like that until like week 3 of training camp.
Fair enough. Well, that leads into what I was going to ask you. Listen, I've talked to Bears fans after a preseason win who use that as a sign that we're going to win a Super Bowl. And I've talked to Bears fans after a preseason loss that said, game's over, might as well just go on to the next season. So how much weight should we put into a win or a loss once those preseason games actually start?
Literally none. I don't know what like negative weight into preseason. And look, I'm excited to cover this team in the preseason as well as the regular season and hopefully postseason. But I don't know how Ben Johnson operates, but based on what I've seen and heard from him thus far, I would not put it past Ben Johnson to play his starters for maybe a half, maybe even 2 games. I don't know, but not the full game, but like start his players to start both 1 and 2 preseason games. But that is the extent of anything somewhat meaningful. And you don't even see the playbook. It's usually pretty vanilla stuff. It's really just getting reps, shaking the rust off for the starters. And then the rest of the preseason is really for these guys fighting for a spot on the 53-man roster. But like I said, Ben Johnson, he tends to be pretty intense. So maybe he'll take a different outlook when it comes to preseason. But if the Bears lose their first preseason game, Jake, please don't panic. Don't text the fantasy group chat. Like, it's all going to be okay, I promise.
Okay, listen, this is the beginning of you talking all of us off the ledge. So don't use all of those skills up just yet. Is it accurate that fans will be allowed out starting Friday?
Yes, Friday, I believe, is the first public practice. Everything's pretty much all set up out there. It looks really, really cool. So I'm excited for fans to get out there as well. This is my first Bears training camp, and everyone in the media, everyone on the Bears beat has been wonderful so far. But I'm excited to hopefully meet some Bears fans out there Friday when they're first allowed in.
Does that change anything for the players, you think, having the fans out there?
I do wonder that. I mean, it has to be, at least somewhat noticeable, and maybe it helps them kind of get in more of a game day NFL regular season mindset when you have more than just like 15 media members standing around, coaches standing around watching you run drills. So I think that it would have to maybe pump them up at least a little, because you're seeing, who you're playing for essentially. I think fans make it worth it for a lot of players. And it could pump some new energy into these guys. But today they didn't even look like they needed any energy, any extra energy. They were were having fun out there. They looked like they were ready to get things going out there.
That's a good start. I love hearing that. Devin, do you have I know, you're probably like me. You're out there, and whenever you see something that you're interested in and you see people that do it well, the wheels start turning. You start thinking of all the questions you wish you could ask them. Right now, do you have a dream question, a dream interview that you wish you could just grab someone by the collar and bring them over and ask them?
Oh, that is such a good question. So we heard from Ben Johnson yesterday. He spoke in a press conference. I would love to, I don't even know if there's a specific question. Maybe I would ask him to take me through the moment when he decided to rip his shirt off in his post-game celebration last year. I believe it was against the Eagles when he did that. It was definitely towards the end of the season, at least the first time he did that. He's just such a fascinating character, and I think he is such an interesting football mind. I would love to just sit down and pick his brain, but as for a specific question, there are too many options, and I can't give you one right now off the top of my head, but now it's going to haunt me for the rest of the day, so thank you for that.
You know what? One, you're going to get that interview. I know it's going to happen. I'm excited to see it. Really quick before I let you go, I've always wondered this whenever someone so you've been involved with covering sports for such a long time, and you're obviously such a great professional at it. How much of your day-to-day is spent giving your friends and family fantasy football advice?
You know what? Not as much as you would think.
I'm disappointed in your friends and family. They have you as an attribute, and they're not like texting you, asking you.
Sometimes they will. Sometimes they will. It depends on the week, on the player. Sometimes I feel icky doing that. Like if someone asks me, I don't know, should I start like Devontae Smith this week and I'm covering the Eagles? I feel like it's like insider trading to be like, oh no, Devontae Smith, he seemed pretty down in the dumps at his locker today. And again, this is a hypothetical situation. So, no, people don't really ask me for fantasy advice that often. But look, Jake, if you need fantasy advice, I'm happy to dole it out.
Listen, I always need fantasy advice, but now I feel like I can't go to you or Sammy or Cassie about it. Now I feel guilty. Devin,
no,
right.
You absolutely can. I will say this, actually. No one has asked me for this, but I've had this thought from everything that I've heard heading into this season, and especially in the last 2 days. Colston Loveland, if he's available, when you need a tight end, when you need to fill that tight end spot on your fantasy roster, I think Colston Loveland is going to have a really big year.
This is one of the few moments where I hope none of my friends are watching this show. I'm pick 12, so we'll see what happens. Devin Caney, we appreciate you. Great job so far, and best of luck for the rest of the training camp.
Thanks so much, Jake.
All right, talk to you soon. All right, guys, just about 2:46. Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to 48. There's, look, I mean, there's the introduction right there. What more
You're making
could you?
it seem like I'm, much more exciting than I am up here.
Well, listen, I always say that when it comes to bad weather, people tend to blame meteorologists. And I've always said that that's unfair because if we're going to do that, then I feel like we should give you guys credit when we have beautiful weather, which we do
for the good
today.
days. Yeah, it's stunning out there today. You may have noticed there's just ever so slightly a little bit of haze out there. It's very subtle. Nothing like what
I'm
we've
not just
seen in the
squinting
past.
my eyes. There's literally a window.
Yeah, there's a window.
I promise there's a window.
But we have a little bit of wildfire smoke that's really highly elevated up in the atmosphere, not affecting us down here on the ground level, so we're in good shape there. But it's a gorgeous day. We have really comfortable temperatures. I was out and about this morning, and I almost needed a sweatshirt.
It's that weird time where you wake up in the morning and it feels like sweatshirt weather, and then all of a sudden, I say this because I think we did it, was it yesterday? We had to take the dogs to get groomed, and I told Iris put on a sweatshirt, and about halfway there, it had already heated up way past the point of sweatshirt weather. So I made a huge mistake there. But it is tough because right now you don't really know how to dress.
It's kind of the in-between.
Yeah, exactly right.
But look at these shots. It's gorgeous.
It is
out
gorgeous.
There. It looks like the Caribbean, doesn't it? It's stunning.
Yes.
So we have lots of sunshine out there. Good news for those of you that are really hoping to get to the beach, enjoy the water. Temps in the water, by the way, are in the low to mid 70s. Chilly, of course. But that's not bad.
It feels good. You go in, you got to do the dunk. You got to get used to it.
And that's really about as good as it gets for Lake Michigan is mid, maybe if you're very lucky and you're having a very hot year, upper 70s.
Yeah.
But
we haven't had that, right?
We've had spells of hot conditions.
Oh, yeah. We've had good beach days.
Overall, I definitely think that we've just kind of like landed in the middle in a lot of locations. So out there today, gorgeous conditions, beach conditions looking good. That beach hazard statement that we had yesterday, last night, that's done and over with. We still have a northeasterly wind flow, so we're running slightly cooler at the lakefront than we are places inland. But, gorgeous today, gorgeous tomorrow as well, but we're going to crank up the heat a little bit. And I've had so many questions about Lollapalooza.
Sure, that's coming. I am almost 40 years old. Of course I'm not going to Lollapalooza. I
had to ask because everyone's asking me if I'm going. I was like, no, I'm not going at all.
I am lame.
But I will say, it's a big...
far too lame for Lollapalooza.
Oh, come on. It's a huge weekend in Chicago, and the last couple of years we've been dealing with showers, thunderstorms, heavy downpours at that. We could be dealing with that on Friday and at least for the first half of the day on Saturday, but I think more than anything, it kind of takes until the afternoon for things to really pick up out at Lala.
Sure.
So we should see improvements going into your Saturday afternoon, but expect to be soggy Friday, the first half of the day on Saturday, then we'll see those improvements. But Thursday is looking great, 87 degrees, partly cloudy skies. We're down to near 80 on Friday. And then 70s over the weekend, and if you ask me for an outdoor festival, 70s, perfect.
Absolutely. All right, I want to zero in on Saturday because that's the day with the lightning graphic on it. You're mentioning it moving because I know a lot of times we put 70% because it means it's going to rain at some point, and we've got the graphic on there. Well, when you talk about moving out, are we saying noon or you're looking like mid-afternoon? What's our move out time if you had to?
At this point, in the Chicago area, I do have to put the little disclaimer here that we're still 3 days out. So things are going to change a little bit. If I had to pick a time frame right now, I'd say that we're drying out by about 1 or 2 p.m.
Okay.
So not so bad.
All right.
Now, if that system slows down, that's when we could be in some trouble for the afternoon and evening hours. But as of now, I think it's going to be fine by, the main acts later in the day on Saturday.
And me being glass half full kind of guy, if there's a chance it could run later, does that mean there's a chance it could wrap up sooner?
No. No.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Yeah. Well, I'm just here with the facts.
No, I appreciate it. All right, we looked forward. I want to look back for a second because I know we had some really severe weather earlier this week, and the entire team did such a great job of just that constant coverage and keeping people informed. I know most of the loop on, was it Monday?
Yeah.
On Monday, and even into ChicagoLIVE was just constant weather coverage from the entire team.
And then right on into the 4 as
well.
well.
Exactly
we
right.
Ramped everything back up. I have some interesting stats about tornadoes so far this year. So if you were to look at the 30-year average for the Chicago forecast area from the National Weather Service, the 30-year average is that we only get about 16 tornadoes a year on average. The last couple of years, way higher than that. So far this year, just within the forecast area for the National Weather Service here locally, we're up to 59 tornadoes. So that's alarming when you hear that the average is 16, right,
Sure.
for the last 30 years. But something that we have to kind of dive a little deeper into is if you look at the 20-year average, the 10-year average, and in the 10-year average sits at 26.
Okay.
So yes, we've still doubled that. However, technology is getting better to be able to spot these when they're happening, to pick up on those small little areas of rotation, get the crews out to survey it. So I do think part of the numbers increasing so much in the last few years is, one, technology is getting better. Of course, it has been a more active than average year, but I think if you're looking at it from a historical perspective, we have kind of two things going for us, giving us those higher numbers. And a lot of it, I think, is the technology. We have cameras everywhere, so everybody, when they see a storm, they're videoing it, so we have proof that it's happening.
So it's kind of suffice to say that just because years and years ago it
Right.
shows it as far less storms doesn't mean they didn't happen.
Right.
It just means that they weren't recorded.
Right, less documented. Now, I will say that the frequency of the severe storms that we're getting, the frequency of tornadoes that we're getting, tornadic storms, that is increasing, and that's something that's across the board. We did a story last year on how is Illinois the new tornado alley, and so far this year, the state of Illinois is actually leading in tornadoes. So we're above Oklahoma. We're above, other places that are historically known as being, tornado alley, the heart of it.
And we just had a extreme storm chaser on the show who basically said, yeah, I've spent a lot of time in your state, in your area, just because things, is that the main area where tornadoes happen in the United States, does it shift? Does it move like that?
So historically, it's been a little bit farther to the west, but we do have to talk a little bit about climate change and how that can impact weather patterns going forward. So the overall pattern is that we're seeing these bigger swings. So we're seeing hotter days, we're seeing colder days, more extremes, right?
Sure.
So think of it like that. So when you have more extremes, the jet stream is moving in different areas than it has historically, and it's happening more frequently. So I think that's what we're seeing here in Illinois.
I know, obviously, it goes without saying, hurricanes don't really affect us much
Thank
here
goodness.
in the state of Illinois. But correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like while the tornado numbers have been feels like they're moving in that direction, are you surprised at how few major hurricanes we've had so far this year? I'm going to say that, knock on wood.
Because actually peak season isn't until September.
Really? Is it that late?
It is. So you need to have sea surface temperatures of at least 80 degrees, and typically the warmer that they get. So if they end up becoming 82, 84, 85 degrees, that's when you have so much more fuel for these storms. So, typically this time of the year, you're only at the A or B storm of the season. So we're going to start to see things rocking and rolling here probably pretty soon, especially late August. September is usually the peak, and then we start to see the frequency decreasing a bit going into October.
And obviously, it's weird to think about a hurricane in the Gulf affecting us in any significant way, but it does sling storms.
It does. So we'll oftentimes, especially if something's coming up into the Gulf, if there's a really large dip in the jet stream and then it can ride it back to the north, we'll get the remnants of it sometimes.
So no one can ever say hurricanes don't matter. They can. They matter to everybody. But
but they can be impacting our weather here.
Yeah.
Are we going to get the 100+ mile per hour winds from it? No, but we can pick up still quite a bit of moisture from it.
Okay, well, but it's so interesting to hear about, obviously the severe weather when you look out and it's always sort of that weird thing where just a couple of days later you look out and it's just the nicest day out there.
Well, enjoy it today, enjoy it tomorrow. Humidity's not going to be so bad either, so
Sure.
enjoy that.
Okay.
And then, of course, we have the storms again Friday and Saturday.
But it stands to reason that if it's going to rain a little bit on Friday and a little bit on Saturday, even though it will clear out, and this is me going into old man dad mode, my mind goes to, it's just going to be a mud pit out there.
It will.
It will stir up that mud.
And I think people enjoy it. I think it's all right.
That is a signal that I'm getting too old for Lala.
Yeah, me too.
That people are like, rain.
I see rain and I'm canceling my plans.
Exactly right. I'm just it's going to be a
We'll try again
absolutely
next
not.
year.
Absolutely not. All right, Emily Walls, we appreciate you. Thank you as always for coming in.
Yep.
You're a rock star. You getting ready for the 4 o'clock?
4, 5, 8, and 9.
My dude, you could sleep at some point.
Yeah, after work.
Yeah, fair enough.
Don't worry, my day's just getting started.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know. And we appreciate you. Emily Wall, thank you so much. All right, guys. Chicago Live wrapping up the 2 o'clock hour. 3 o'clock hour starts in just a couple of minutes. We'll be right back. welcome back. Kicking off the 3 o'clock hour here on Chicago Live. We're going to talk about a new mural honoring Stacey King and the person who brought it to us, Darius Dennis. Darius, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you for taking the time, sir. We appreciate you.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. Take me back to the beginning. How did you get involved with the mural?
So graciously, there's a project in Chicago by the name of Project Logan, which is run by a gentleman named Gabe. He goes by Flash of ABC Crew from Logan Square, and they have a mural project that they rotate different artists and artwork from the urban arts graffiti community and muralists across the city and across the nation. And I reached out to Flash maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago and said, hey, we have an opportunity to use some of the funds that we have from other projects and, walk into your space. And if you have enough space for us and create something beautiful and, sort of unasked and unannounced, I started with a friend setting up a painting for Stacey King last Thursday evening. So,
what made you think about Stacey King? What made you decide that he was going to be our focus?
Well, so Stacey's recent passing was very impactful, I think, to the entire Chicago sports and Chicago community overall. As everyone knows, 3-time NBA champion and tenured Bulls affiliate and employee for, the past 30 years. The voice that he brought to the game, I was a young kid watching all of the Bulls championships and collecting all the basketball cards, and I know of his presence and the caliber of athlete and professional that he brought to the game and to the fandom. And, it just seemed appropriate. My background is painting murals and painting hand-painted advertising across the nation. And a lot of what we would call wall dogs, men and women that hang off the sides of buildings, painting hand-painted advertising that mimics the old 9094 building and the mural building of yesteryear, right off the expressway. We essentially, do these tributes. There are people in Los Angeles who are close friends that have painted, Kobe Bryant, for example, and Nipsey Hussle and other icons in Los Angeles. And in New York, obviously, they have a huge tradition of doing the same thing and paying respects to their icons. And, it was a double thing where it was sort of a display of the caliber of work that we can bring here when honoring our folks here in Chicago. And also, really taking a close look at the legacy that Stacey leaves behind him and how hard those shoes are going to be able to fill, in Chicago this coming season.
Darius, a mural is a massive endeavor, and I'm really curious as an artist and a storyteller, because you're telling a story with this thing. Where do you even begin? For us commercially, it's a little easy because, usually clients, they already have an idea or something in mind. With a mural for the artistic side, and for the street art, more street art side, obviously you have to have a design, you have to have a space, and then you have to have some sort of financial, capacity, whether it be for the equipment, or for your time. And I think that those are really the key ingredients when people are looking to either have a mural made or to have something installed, whether it be, on their building or in their home, or even a canvas, for that matter. Is it true that fans have been visiting the mural and leaving things?
No one's been leaving anything. I don't want to paint that picture. But people have, a lot of people have definitely started visiting since activity was noted online a couple days ago. We've been, very, very lucky to have Joe from the Bulls who stopped by. He took the actual photo that was the photo reference, so it was great to make that introduction with him and get his feedback. And yeah, we've had a couple people say, hey, we saw it online and we drove from, various neighborhoods in and around Chicago to come by and say hi and see it for themselves and just take it in, right? Just to take a breath and say, hey, a lot of people have responded with a resounding, this is it. We needed this. We needed something to sort of just encapsulate and take in the legacy of the Chicago icon.
And when you get that reaction, when you hear this is it, this is what we needed, what does that make you feel?
It makes it certainly feels reassuring that my intuition And as the person who runs a mural program and a sign program with my shop at Big Wall Sign and Mural, that we're making some good decisions and some good choices, especially with regard to taking opportunities to give back to the community, right? I think that what we see from a lot of the larger, what could be considered competitors, it's really hard for them to operate at the scales that they are in the communities and in the neighborhoods. So for us to be able to take the time and say, hey, for me personally, I got a couple days off and I still want to paint, and I want to paint something that's from the heart and that people will resonate with and be proud of. That feels really good. It feels good to be reassured that we're making a decision that people will stand behind. I should disclose that the Stacey King mural, and this is for anyone who's interested in what it is that we do or what other artists in our realm do, it is on Project Logan, which is a rotating space. So, shout out to them, for providing the space. And they have, been so polite to say that there will be an extended amount of time that Stacey will be there, but that timeline is undisclosed. So I just want to, prep everyone with that. I don't want anybody to get too mad at them or at us, but there still is a showmanship here with the thing that we provide or in the type of painting that we do, where it could be available anywhere and installed again permanently, so long as the right place and people have the right discernment to allow that to happen. So, just to speak to that, this was very much a take matters in our own hands, and let's represent the icons of Chicago properly and elegantly, so that people know that Chicago cares as much as we say we do when we're at games and the rest of the year as well.
So following up on this being a rotating space, not something that's going to be there forever, so people need to check it out when they can. Do you know other things that have been in that space, how long they've stayed for? Do you have a frame of reference for maybe past things that have been there?
Well, so it's grown. Project Logan itself, and I wish Flash could speak to it, but Project Logan itself has when they first began, maybe like 13 or 14 years ago, they were doing fairly quick, like weekly, if not bi-weekly change outs. I know that recently that has become a lot to manage because of the flux of just mural list, people coming up looking for spaces and stuff with them. So, I know that they have had like two-month window slots, which, I tried to make it really challenging to break that, right? So that we can go as long as, physically possible or longer, so that people do have enough time to take it in during the season, especially. But again, there's no real promise there. The point of the space really is for work like this, where people can create reflective work on their own. I know that Flash was speaking to me earlier and said that he was like, man, the space is really a healthy space, because artists do need places to create, to express. And unlike some of the coast, we don't have a ton of that here. So that their space really is unique in that way. But it was a huge blessing to be able to show up and surprise them and surprise the community and say, hey, you know what, we're going to take the time to give you something that we need.
I love that. I want to circle back around. You talked about one particular photo being the photo reference for the mural. Can you tell me a little bit about the photo?
Yes. So the photo, well, I just learned a lot about it yesterday, so bear with me. But apparently Stacey was at Madison Square Garden. I'm trying to think of Joe's last name right now, but he, their photographer snapped a photo, according to him, snapped a photo while at MSG, and it was just a bright, very beautiful portrait of him, in my opinion. I know that the Bulls did end up using that image in order to start a memorial for him online. It's one of the first images that I saw when I got the news when it broke. And, when comparing that to other images of him, image selection is pretty tough. You want something that's going to be high resolution. You want something that's going to be nice. There are a lot of great photos of him, especially as a player. Looking at those photos and trying to decide or discern what was going to hit hard was something that felt natural. It's like, instead of picking him in his younger years and when he was playing the game and in the 90s, it felt a little more natural to pick something that maybe, we all that have seen him over the past, 10 to 20 years, as a sports announcer and working with the different agencies around Chicago sports could identify with. And I think that's one reason why it's hitting so well. It's more modern him.
I'm curious, just as an artist, whenever you have a photo reference, whether it be, the Stacey King photo or ones you've dealt with in the past, just as an artist, what is your relationship with that photo? What is the balance between this is my point of reference versus I'm also an artist and need to sort of express things my own way?
That's a pretty good question. So, let me ask you, Perry, do you remember the 1994 murals, the Dennis Rodman murals and everything in Chicago?
Yes,
okay. So, we're talking about an art form that myself, the business that I'm running, and the group of us that do this work in the nation, we're not bringing anything necessarily new right to the table. A lot of it is, created as commercial advertising at some point. But we do have our own practices, right? We are artists. So that's kind of what you're asking. In this, I would say the specific sense, you're trying to capture as much as you can, like the spirit of what is there in the painting. But, in other photos that I've maybe, painted in my practice, in my personal practice, there's a lot of spirit in that. I think that I find myself like listening to music of the people that I'm playing, or looking at the highlights of the athlete, right? Really just like absorbing. And so that's the more personal touch. It's the taking in who we're painting, what impact they had, what their past was, what they meant to people, what they mean to us. And in music, that can be a really big hit, right? If you're painting a musician, we just painted John Prine last week with John Langford in the Old Town School. So there was a lot of like listening to John Prine as it led up to that, and taking in his music and what that means for the past, 60 years of American country and folk culture. So there's this moment of really trying to absorb the spirit of the individual, I think, in these moments. And then when it comes to style, I think that's not necessarily limited, but there's so many different techniques and skills that are passed down from like our mentors, Patrick McGregor and Esteban Sanchez and, Jasper Patch and Jason Jarros and all these men and women, right, through the years that have like helped stretch this capacity of what we consider to be wall dogging, painting directly on the brick or masonry. And I think that, utilizing those tools plus, my own personal art background and practice of painting and trying to just make the painting a show. The painting is meant to really wow the original photographer, the people associated and affiliated with the person, and if in the opportunities that they're around, them themselves, make them feel like their likeness has been captured. So I think that there's a certain honor to trying to stick close, right? But also you will see. If you study it or if you're a person that's involved, it doesn't occur to the naked eye. But to those of us that do it, we can see those little techniques and skills that maybe are really like quintessential in a person's style or passed down maybe from someone that came before.
Darius, I want to follow up on something that you said and just push back a little bit because you said something along the lines of that you're not doing anything new. But I would argue, there's a whole new generation of kids out there that weren't around for the Rodman mural, was it on off the Kennedy, or that weren't around for that are going to be around for this one. So I would argue that in your own way you are doing something new for a whole new generation that never got to maybe experience any of those the Bulls ones from the past. Would you agree with that at all?
I think there's some of that. I mean, I think there's a little push in organizations like ours to keep it alive, right? We really are in this moment of artificial intelligence and, the role that the internet plays, and then vinyl bannering and how to keep things cheap and cost effective, but still impactful. And, my business, Big Wall Sign and Mural, one of our main concerns is making this stuff accessible, doing the larger projects, but also making sure that we can make, it available to the smaller agencies, mom and pop coffee shops. We want people to be able to access this and it not to be out of their realm or their financial opportunity. But to that point, to your point, like, yes, we also want to put it back in the public eye. We want to make sure it doesn't die. We want to do it in new ways. Now we are painting things that are graphic design the way that they weren't in the 90s, right? There's so many different color ranges and so many different things that go into what the original image may be. So, you're right. I mean, I think that classically, right, some of what we do dates back, all the way to the rock and roll Billboard Hall of Fame era, right? But you're right, using it on the new subject and sort of with some of the new supplies we have is trying to give it nuance and make it special again in this time, which does require some renewal. I would agree.
Love that. Derek Dennis, founder of Big Wall Sign and Mural. Hey, man, thank you for what you do, and keep up the good work, and we'll talk with you soon, all right?
I appreciate you. Go Bulls.
Yes, sir. Go Bulls. All right, guys. Chicago Live rolls on 3:15. We'll be right back. Welcome back, 3:17 on Chicago Live. Listen, behind the scenes here at Fox 32, there are just an unimaginable amount of very talented people working to get these shows on the air, to get the latest breaking information happening around our city, around our state, around the world. So many people who you never get the chance to see, never get the chance to meet, which is why I'm so glad that we have this segment here on this show, because you get to meet one of the amazing producers that we have working to build a newscast, which is a massive accomplishment. And the fact that she's able to do it every day is absolutely incredible. Is Sloan with us? All right, Sloan Salerno, our 5 p.m. producer. Sloan, how are you?
I'm good, Jake. How are you?
I'm doing so well. I saw you when you got in, and I know from the moment you walked through the door, you're already looking at, I'd imagine you're probably looking at the news before you even come in. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I go through all my emails and Slack as I'm getting ready in the morning.
See, you're always working, and that's why your shows are so great. You've got an A-list of talented reporters who are working on stories. What's Joni working on?
So Joni's heading out to Tinley Park. So obviously we've been talking about this the past couple of days, the horrible storms that we had earlier this week. And so a new sports dome complex that was pretty much just finished being built, it was supposed to open this summer, collapsed during all the storms. And so, I mean, this thing is massive. It's 142,000 square feet. It was climate controlled. There was going to be like turf fields that you can use for several sports, batting cages, pickleball courts, all these things. And now they basically have to start over. And so she's out there covering that today.
Was the damage so destructive that it's basically a tear down what they already have and from ground zero kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, if like you can picture like they have those like it's like it looks almost like it's inflated, like those big domes that they use for sports. Like I remember playing volleyball tournaments and things like this growing up. And so like that entire top part of it was just taken down by the storm. So they're going to have to rebuild like the entire outer structure.
Wow. And I think this is a really interesting example of how a story is sort of constantly developing and constantly evolving, even though you think it might be done. Obviously, the storms happened earlier in the week, but then what part of your job is as a producer to look at a story and go, well, what are the ripple effects, right? Like, how does it keep going even though the immediate story might be done? I'd imagine that's something you have to do a lot.
Yeah, you're always looking for a new angle to further a story along. It's not doing anyone any good to say the same thing every single day about something. Even storm damage is affecting, several people right now. But what way can we tell the story to make it new and make it matter to a lot of people?
And not just, I mean, I think, not to like blow smoke, but like one of the things I think we do really well here is that, the story, could start at 7:00. And by 7:45, we already have sort of an update on that because we're kind of keeping people updated on what the latest was. What's Casey Cronus up to today?
Casey has the best story of the day. She's at the Shedd Aquarium hanging out with the 4 new beluga whales that are there. So that is so fun for her. So these are the whales. I'm sure you guys have talked about it a bunch on here, but they were rescued from marine land in Canada, which was actually shut down like 2 years ago, but there were 30 whales left there that were being taken care of. And now all of them are being taken to other aquariums and zoos and places like that. And so last week, the Shedd got 4. They're 4 females, and they've been in the water. They've been getting, used to their new environment. And so this is the first time we're going to be able to see them actually in the water at the Shedd up close. She's also going to talk to one of the vets there too.
Have you seen any footage to come out of that story so far today?
Not yet, but I'm so excited. And all the pictures they had of them before, like being transported, like in the big sling, are incredible. And so I'm sure it's going to be great. And if you didn't know, Jake, you can actually swim with the belugas. Your everyday person can swim with the beluga whales. And I've done it before, and it's very fun.
Wait, what do you mean you've done? What do you mean you've done it before?
They have like the beluga experience, and you can get like a ticket for it, and you suit up in like the overalls, and you get in the water and you hang out with the beluga whales.
And are these photos readily available? Perry is requesting images of you swimming with beluga whales.
I don't have the technology to show you them right now, but I did send them to Casey Cronus, and I said, if you need anything extra for your story, feel free to include these.
What was the experience like? What was it like swimming with the beluga whales?
It was great. I remember it smelling really bad because it smells like fish. This was also like probably like 12 years ago, I think, that I did this.
Okay.
And the water was freezing. You're in like these like big waders that go up to like here on you, and so you're not actually like getting wet, but then the belugas splash you, and so like the water like gets on you and like gets down the thing, and the water's freezing, frigid, which is what they like, but cold for us people.
I love. We're all going to come find you after the show's over and ask about this and the experiences. I was really wanting, the moment that I saw those images of the beluga whales being hoisted in the slings, my first thought was that like that's about to be turned into a meme, like me after like being like leaving a Mexican restaurant, like because they just like,
yeah,
they
like
have,
my friends carry me out of the bar.
Yeah, exactly, because they inherently have these like happy little faces on, and they're just being hoisted, and they're so chunky.
Yeah, there's like literally nothing they can do about it either. They're just like stuck in the sling.
Yeah.
And the Shedd could be getting even more of these too, and so she's gonna get an update on that today first too, because I mean the Shedd, I don't want to butcher the numbers, but there's already a lot of whales there.
Yeah.
So if you add all these new whales,
There's
like how many is too many?
And they're also like that space. I know they keep them apart, but that big area of water is also shared with like dolphins and stuff, right?
I have no idea.
I think I want to say that's right.
I swam with them once. I'm not that familiar.
We were just there. We were there a couple of weeks back. I was trying to remember. When you mentioned Casey, that's very much the best story. Like as a reporter, like that would be an amazing story to be able to cover. When you get to tell a reporter that a story like that, because listen, let's be honest, Casey Cronus covers some very hard breaking news a lot, and she does an amazing job at it. And so it's really great when a hard news reporter like that gets the chance to cover a little bit more of a funner, lighthearted story. does she get very happy when she gets that assignment?
And yeah, she loves getting to do something fun. I'm sure everyone does. It's a nice break from having to do, death and destruction. And today was actually a unique thing. So Casey came in at 11 and she's, had a story in mind. It wasn't panning out. The next story we had in mind wasn't panning out. And Tia was actually supposed to go to the shed for the story, but she has this super amazing, great special that's airing at 5 at 9 tonight. And she was still finalizing things on that. And so it kind of just worked out that she couldn't make it there and Casey didn't have a story and the pieces just kind of fell together. So stuff like that happens all the time.
As the A-team said, I love when a plan comes together. We're going to have Tia on actually in a couple of minutes talking about that. Is her special running and did you say the 5 o'clock is running in your show?
Yeah, it'll run at 5 and 9 tonight.
And I've got to, just because I've just some fun behind the scenes, how long is the package?
It is 8 minutes and 49 seconds.
And here's why
one of her longest ones.
Here's why I want to drive that home. 8 minutes and 49 seconds for a package in news is basically like walking into a movie theater and being told that you're going to be there for the next. Like that's a long time in news.
And
I think that is a test. I don't say that as like oh it's so long. That's a testament to how good the piece is. That it is that long. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. We don't let everyone just do almost 10-minute long packages every single day. And those are reserved for special reports. So, Tia has spent months on the story, and it takes a lot of effort to dig into something like this and get all the information, make sure you're telling the story the right way. And so it would do it almost an injustice to have it be shorter. And so that's, and Tia does a great job, like every single day, turning day-turn stories. And she keeps those, a respectable time usually. But like you said, that's not a normal thing is to have a nearly 10-minute package. And so it is just a testament to her and her storytelling and how important the story is.
Yeah, whenever I see that a TRT like that, my first thought isn't 8 minutes. It's, that must be an amazing piece to justify that. And yeah, Tia's a brilliant storyteller. We're going to talk with her about that in just a couple of minutes. Really quick before we go, we talked a little bit about this earlier on the show, but to transfer from one group of animals to another, there's a bit of a transition when it comes to the gorillas over at Brookfield.
Yes, 2 of the gorillas there. So they are, hang on, I don't want to mess up their names, Kamba and Nora. And so they were both born at the zoo. They've spent their whole lives there. But now they're being moved to another zoo. And did you guys talk to Brookfield Zoo? I can't remember.
Yes, we did. Yes, thanks for watching the show.
Did they say where they're going? Because they didn't say it in the release, so I was curious.
Yes, they did tell us. It's in the interview. I'll send you a clip.
Okay. So they're going to a new zoo, and it's sad because, one of them has been there for 20 years, the other one 12 years, and this is like the biggest change in this gorilla group's dynamic in 20 years. But they're saying it's all for the good of the species, and this is something that happens in nature so that the genetics can be diversified, which is super interesting. And so it sounds sad, I'm sure it's going to be an adjustment period for everyone involved and all the gorillas, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, she said all of the gorillas that are there now, in relation to their silverback, they're basically, for comparison, basically all cousins. So that was what she was saying, was that 2 of the females have to be moved out to bring 2 more in that aren't within sort of that family tree. Basically, yeah, just to be able to have more gorillas.
Yeah, and it makes sense when you think about it that way, but I'm sure it is, sad for everyone, including the zoo, to have to say goodbye after that many years.
For sure. But they're all very well taken care of, and I'm sure where they are being sent, they're going to be very well taken care of as well. Sloan, we appreciate you. I know you've got 90 minutes till your show starts, so this is always like a weird time to ask you to stop and talk about everything in your show. So we do appreciate you, and go ahead and grab those beluga pictures because the moment the show's done, Perry and I are coming down there and we want to see them.
Perfect. We'll have a slideshow.
Fantastic. We'll see you in a bit. Thanks, Sloan.
Bye.
All right, guys, 3:28, Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back. Welcome back, 331. We're going to dip in real quick to a Senate Aging Committee hearing the AI deception machine, deepfakes, chatbots, and the new frontier of senior fraud. Let's listen in.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for having this hearing. As I think all of us know, AI has a very real potential of changing everything about our lives. It's changing how we work, how we make decisions, how entire industries are operating, reshaping our economy, energy systems, national security. It's affecting people's daily lives. And while it brings enormous opportunity, it also introduces risk that demands some serious oversight. And that's why we're here today. Over the past year, I've been thinking a lot about how we make AI work for all Americans, not just a few big companies. And that's what led me last year to put out a roadmap called AI for America. And the ideas behind the roadmap are pretty simple. And that is, if AI is going to transform our economy, we need to have a real plan to make sure Americans aren't left behind, and that the technology is developed and used responsibly. And here's the thing, these systems are evolving very quickly, even just quickly in the last few weeks. And there's a lot that we don't know, and there's a lot that the developers themselves don't know about what some of these products are capable of. Older Americans need to be included in this conversation and not treated as just some afterthought as these products are developed and deployed. About 1 in 5 Arizonans in my state are over the age of 65. And when I hear from seniors in my state, they tell me they're concerned about what is real and what isn't real. Ms. Del Mastro, you certainly have experienced that, and I'm so sorry for what happened to you and your family. Seniors are seeing more convincing phishing scams and AI-generated scams and other forms of online fraud. And sometimes people don't know if they're talking to a bot or a real person. Just yesterday, I was on the phone with my cable company. I called, and I was convinced that this was an artificial person. And I still think it may have been. I may have been augmented by a real person. And when I started questioning whether or not the person was real, it became the real person. So I think there are systems where one person, where you can have the AI overlaid and there's somebody monitoring. Anyway, we sorted it out. I got the real person eventually. So these are real fair concerns, and it affects everybody. I share them, and I do spend, in my former career, as somebody who used a lot of technology. So last week, I introduced legislation with Senator Justice called the Senior Chatbot Protection Act. This bill will require companies to clearly disclose when consumers are interacting with AI and safeguard sensitive conversations and address deceptive design practices in their products that put people at risk. We want to help people make informed decisions while supporting, not replacing, human judgment and trusted relationships. So today, Ranking Member Gillibrand and I are asking the leading AI companies directly, how are you making sure your products are safe for older adults? And are you designing products with them in mind? And do you even know how many older adults are using your products? And if we want to make sure AI will help rather than harm, we need to know about who's using it, how they're using it, and how it reacts in the real world. So that's the purpose of my bipartisan Aging with AI Act, which the chairman mentioned, which we introduced, Chairman Scott and I, in June. It will help us build the evidence we need.
All right, that was the Senate Aging Committee. They're hearing the AI deception machine, deepfakes, chatbots, and the new frontier of senior fraud. But we're going to transfer over real quick. 335. We were just talking about Tia Ewing and the story that she's working on for today. And Tia, I want to bring up something that Sloan and I were talking about. And I bring this up not in a like, oh, isn't it funny, but in a very serious manner. I asked Sloan, how long your story was for today. So it's over 8 minutes.
8 minutes 8 minutes 46 seconds.
Yes. And the reason that I brought that up isn't a like, oh, there's a long package in the show today, but it's a testament to how important the story must be. And not to like blow smoke because you're here, but I was saying this before you even walked in, how good the story must be that it was given that length. I mean, it's a little behind the scenes of news. A 9-minute package is not common in a newscast.
It's not common at all.
And it's a testament to how important this story is.
Yeah, it is important. And here's the deal. It's a story that's very difficult to talk about, especially considering knowing that in this case, oftentimes we say, justice is, delayed but not denied. But as of right now, this justice is denied. And the reason being, this is a story about sexual abuse, which is very difficult to get somebody to sit down and talk to you about anyways, to open up those wounds of trauma all over again. But to have that conversation with someone, on my side of the pen, hoping that our story will move action and to hear that, no, it's not going to happen is very difficult. So the story is Nancy Alexander, already delayed because she has epilepsy, which obviously is a health condition, kept her out of school a lot, and so she was delayed in her reading. So she was sent, already behind in class, not in the proper grade level, was sent to a teacher to become prepared, ready for that grade level, ready for the next grade levels to be able to read. And this shows you how this teacher didn't do the job, because here we are 43 years later and she still has problems reading. Nevertheless, she goes to this teacher and she says it starts with touching. From there, it escalates to full on. And I say this with warning because I know it is very difficult, but the R word, we are streaming on social media. I don't want our videos to be taken down, and as a result, she conceives a child from this teacher who's now 78 years old in the present day. Her daughter is now 43 years old. In 2019, there were some rollbacks by the Governor J.B. Pritzker, of a law that then went into effect, reinstated some things in terms of statute of limitation, like how far back can we go? Sure. And so that was put on the books in 2020. And when I realized that, I said, well, surely, this is a slam dunk case, because what ends up happening in Nancy Alexander's case is this isn't just someone saying I was impregnated by my teacher. This is someone who goes as far as to track down a relative of the teacher, who you will hear from in my reporting tonight. His own daughter provided her DNA to Nancy to compare with her daughter's DNA, drives to Chicago from Montana to get a result of 99.79% positivity that they are now sisters. That should be a slam dunk case, sure, right? I mean, we always hear how DNA plays into these cases. Well, because of this law, it does not mean that you go all the way back in time. So the Cook County State's Attorney's Office is basically saying that they cannot go further back than 1986 to convict said person that they know is the perpetrator, that they know fathered this child. There is nothing at this point they can do. So they know it.
They acknowledge
they have the proof. Yes, they have the proof. The Chicago Police Department was the actual agency that helped to conduct and do the swabs, the buccal swabs, to confirm the DNA. They got the results back first. They told me, quote, this is considered an emergency cleared, I think it's called emergency cleared closed or something to that effect. It's in my story tonight, which is essentially like, we know who the perpetrator is, but we can't arrest them. There's nothing else we can do. So in this case, their hands are tied. The only thing that would happen here in this case is a law would have to be put on the books. Two things can happen here. So hopefully someone does see us talking about this. A law would have to be put on the books that goes further back, right? In the case of Nancy, we know that her child was born in 1983. So a law would have to go further, obviously beyond 86, if the child was born in 1983. And then secondly, we would have to have some victims, additional victims that come forward. Oddly enough, his daughter says she was a victim. So it depends on where said incidents happened, if they can try possibly a case there. But even then, it would have to be a slam dunk case. It would be his daughter alleging that she was sexually assaulted by her father, not that there's DNA evidence proving it. In this case, we have DNA. So there would have to be other victims. He was working in a school. If his own daughter is saying she was a victim, if our interview, Nancy Alexander is saying she's a victim, that's two people.
Sure.
I don't think you just stop this behavior overnight.
Right. Where is the perpetrator?
So the perpetrator is now living in North Carolina. He's 78 years old. There's no indication as of now that he's working with children. But I mean, maybe there's somebody out there that will come forward and say, and this is after having a conversation with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. I mean, that's what would have to happen. So justice is not just delayed, it's denied. It's 43 years delayed because, in part, Nancy was embarrassed. She was, growing up impoverished in Chicago, raising a biracial baby. So people had questions. Mm-hmm. And so it was a lot of shame that came with that because her teacher turned out to be an older white man. It was as a result of a raping situation. And so here we are today. And, I was hoping, after hearing her story, I thought, well, surely we put this in the atmosphere, like something will happen here.
Sure.
Nothing's going to happen.
How long have you been working on this story?
We first got this story in May.
Wow.
So we were, and it was one of those stories where I'll be honest, on my end, it was very difficult to tell.
Sure.
To sit down and really listen to that was very difficult. And then, we had to dot our I's and cross our T's and make sure that, what we were hearing was indeed the truth. The DNA really sealed the deal for us that, this is not made up. What we have not heard from Chicago Public Schools yet on this story. We sent them a long list of questions as hoping for a response. Also did a FOIA request on records to see if this teacher had come up in investigations before tied to children. We did just recently put that in, so hopefully we'll get some of that. But if that happened, we don't know. And I'm sure, we're going back in the crates. We're going back into the late 70s, early 80s. So we know some of that stuff takes some time. So,
whenever you do a story like this, that you're hoping has that ripple effect, that will continue to evolve into something, right? Yeah. There are people that you say, I hope this person sees this story. I hope someone involved sees this. This is one of those situations where you need people to see this story. So who would you say are some of the people that you most need to see this story?
Well, I would think, the governor,
Sure.
some lawmaker out there needs to see the story to understand that your laws on the books may not go back far enough.
Because you mentioned how this, if there were to be another case, it would need to be a slam dunk case. But as you said, it already was a slam dunk case. It was, but because of a technicality, sorry, I know I'm not talking to the microphone, because of a technicality.
Because of the years.
Because of the years, that's the only thing but that doesn't change the fact that it happened.
The facts are what they are. And we know DNA, how do you lie about that?
Right.
And here's the deal. What I didn't even say here, there were technically 2 DNA tests if you really consider everything here. They did an Ancestry.com DNA test together. They did that together to confirm. That was not good enough for the Chicago Police Department, which I don't get into in the story because there was a lot of, that adds a lot of, questions. Sure. But they did that independently. Once they used Ancestry.com to figure out who family was, they did an Ancestry.com DNA together. So to confirm that they were siblings. Okay, they were going to submit that to CPD. CPD had it said that wasn't enough. We need you to come here and do it. So she drives literally on a whim from Montana to Chicago to then give her DNA before police. So she even says, she being his daughter that was found, right, to confirm the DNA, even says, I thought for sure police would do something. I can't believe nothing's been done. And so I think that's the shock factor. She also went on to say she does not talk to her father anymore, but that, she did know him to have retired from Chicago Public Schools. And so you would think, is this person a possible serial predator?
Right.
We don't know.
That's a fair question. So you said she doesn't talk to him anymore.
No.
Is she aware of any circles that he runs in? And did you say North Carolina?
North Carolina is all we know. He lives in North Carolina. We know he's not a teacher. In terms of what he's doing these days, we don't know. We know he's retired. Our legal team, top corporate, did say we should name him. Okay. So he is named. Tonight you will hear his name. So I'm sure if a victim's out there, they hear that name, I'm sure it will jog their memories and not in a good way. But that's where we are with it. I'm not a policing agency, right?
Sure.
I can't pursue charges against anybody. I can only present the facts, and the facts is that there is DNA that confirms that this young lady, Nancy Alexander, got pregnant at 15, gave birth by 16, and the father is a former teacher, is what we know.
We know the story is airing in the 5 o'clock
5:30
and in the 9 o'clock as well.
I don't know if it's airing at 9. I would assume
Okay.
so, but
All right.
definitely in the 5:30 hour. And of course, you can watch it on all of our streaming platforms, including fox32chicago.com. So.
And really quick before we know, we're over time. I was in here in the studio with you when you were shooting some stuff for this story. And I always love, because I brag on you, I always tell you you're a brilliant
That's
storyteller. It felt like, this is not an easy story for you. This was.
It's frustration.
I saw you sort of shooting some things and could tell instantly, oh, this was a tough one.
It's a tough one because Nancy Alexander came to me to tell her story because of other stories where we've gotten answers.
Yeah.
And so when someone puts that kind of a burden on your shoulders to think that you're going to have a positive outcome for them and you don't, that's tough.
Just
That's
because
tough to
this
live with.
story's over doesn't mean, like you said, stories have ripple effects.
Yeah.
You know? And who's to say that someone who might be able to watch it a little bit later today or online or what have you.
Maybe.
I'm sure we'll be posting links on.
It's
on
not that
social
I'm
media.
not hopeful. I just feel like as many stories as we talk about like this, I mean, even going back to other schools, right? Catholic schools,
Right.
Different entities out there, that there wouldn't be a law on the books to take that into account is baffling to me and frustrating.
Let people know your social media where they can find information about the story.
So we're going to be teasing it. I just saw the photographer that shot it come in, so maybe we have some edits to do. But we're going to be teasing it on social media. You can follow that tease. It's going to be posted probably in the next 10 minutes or so on fox32chicago.com's all of their platforms.
And I'm very grateful to Fox that you were given the time to,
That's a big deal.
Give the story
That's a big
again,
deal.
and I something by nature of the stuff that I cover, people give me a hard time whenever my pieces run long. But when you have a piece like this, I'm grateful that a piece like this is given the time because it deserves the time.
I agree. And lately, our investigative pieces have run pretty long, and usually there's an accommodation of some sort, even if there's part 2 after the break.
Right.
So yeah, our bosses understand the importance of telling these kind of stories and really the change that they can have. So maybe there is a legal change out there that has yet to be uncovered, and maybe some lawmaker will see it and say, you know what? We need to amend this in some way.
I believe this is just the beginning of how this is going to start,
I
and
hope
that
so.
there's going to be more to come. And when it does, we'll talk about it right
Yep,
here.
we will.
All right, Tia Ewing, we appreciate you.
Thank you,
All right,
Jake.
guys, just about 3:49, Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back. Welcome back. 3:51 on Chicago Live. Our last segment of the show, we're talking about Red Bull Rush Delivery returns to Lake Geneva. It's an adrenaline-fueled foot race event that takes place at Lake Geneva on Saturday, September 19th. We're going to talk with Ellen Burling, the general manager of Lake Geneva Cruise Line. Ellen, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. This sounds like a lot of fun. I got to be honest, there are so many like Red Bull events that happen that are just kind of fun to go out and watch. So tell us a little bit about what this one is.
I thought that exact thing too when Red Bull approached us. They have a lot of different activities that they've done in a lot of different places, and this was something unique for us. The Mailboat is a long-standing tradition in Lake Geneva. It's a tour that incorporates homes around the lake where people live, and we deliver mail to them as a regular one of our tours. Red Bull wanted to make it into a competition. And so when they approached us last year, we were eager to make that happen. What we did is they had registration, they had people sign up to do the activity. It's the same thing as our mail jumpers do on a daily basis for our mail delivery tour. But they made it a little bit more challenging. It was all about speed. It was all about, being able to get back on the boat without falling in the water, without falling down, so forth. And of course, with the big prize pot at the end, it made it a really attractive thing for people to sign up for.
Now, listen, I've seen some of these Red Bull competitions in the past. These people that do these, they take them very, very seriously. Can you talk about, yes, it's a lot of fun, and if you're a spectator, it'll be really cool to come out and see. But the people that sign up for these things, they're not messing around.
They are not, for sure. We had some of our past employees, past jumpers who signed up. None of them won. They have done the mailboat, some of them for many years, and they know how to do it. They'd have the finesse and so forth. But all three of the top spots were won by people who had never done it before. They go all out. They were not afraid to go fast, not afraid to take risks, to take challenges. Of course, all with safety in mind. But yeah, you're right. They go all out for whatever the event is.
Ellen, would you describe it as kind of like an obstacle course? Is that a term that you would use?
It is. The second part of it is. The beginning part is really just kind of speed. They have everybody try. They will have 40 people who sign up and do the event for the first round. And then for the second part, they narrow it down to 10. And then they definitely make it more like an obstacle course. They are actual piers that are on Lake Geneva, but they will put out, pool, swim noodles and plants and different things to make it more of an obstacle course, harder to do it on the second round.
All right. Where, when we come out, will we be able to see you jumping in and taking part? Do you think you'll be one of the first, or are you
Yeah.
coming up at the end?
You'd have to go way back in time to see me do that. Way back.
I do want to. You mentioned going back in time, and I do love. And correct me if I'm wrong. This is, I believe you said it's tied to like an old tradition. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, the Lake Geneva Cruise Line is the company. We run the mailboat tour every day from June 15th till September 15th. Back around the turn of the century, there weren't roads around the lake, and so people got their goods, services, and mail by boat. Over the years, the mailboat has just become more of a tradition. So now people who are living on the lake and want their mail delivered by boat just have to sign up at the local post office. We have a carrier. We have actually 3 or 4 who alternate, and they get the mail. They deliver it right to the pier of the people who are living along the lake, the people that choose to have it. And we've done it for well over 100 years. There are other mailboats in the country, but I believe we're the only one that carries about 150 passengers along and has someone who actually jumps on and off the boat. And the boat is 75 feet long and carries 150 people. So it's not just jumping off a rowboat. It's a big deal. It's a really big attraction and a very popular tour.
I've seen video. It's very cool to see if you've never seen it before. Some people might listen to this and think that's a really cool thing. I'd like to come out to see it. Some people might listen to this and think that's a really cool thing. I want to come out and do it. I know there are limited spots if you want to sign up. Are there still spots available?
It just opened yesterday, and there were 40 spots. So I'm not sure how many have been taken already, but I know it took at least a few days, even a couple of weeks to fill up last year. So I would imagine there's still openings. And they're at the Red Bull. It's redbull.com/rush delivery USA. And that'll certainly give all the details and let them know if there's any spots still open.
All right, I got to ask you. I don't like to run. I'm fairly slow, and I hurt my back when I sneezed the other day. So what do you think my chances are?
I think you should come and watch and maybe just be a spectator. Maybe we could even, have you be a timer or something, but it sounds like something that maybe somebody with a little bit less risk involved should be doing.
Fair enough. But I'd imagine the people that have the ability to do this, that actually can do it, we've got to be talking about people that are in pretty serious shape.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, and like I said earlier, we had some of our former jumpers, people who did it in high school and college and come back and figure they were going to just take the cake. They were going to win it all. They have the finesse. They know how to jump. They know all that. But the others, like we mentioned before, who are just in it to win it, they just go all out. They're fast. They are no fear. To look at it, it seems like it's something that wouldn't be that hard, but it's a little bit challenging. Not for somebody who just wants to win. They just go all out.
I would love to meet the person who looks at videos of this and says that that's not that hard. I would challenge them to go do it themselves.
I agree.
Are we hoping
it's harder than it looks?
No, I'm sorry. Please continue.
Yeah. No, it is. It's harder than it looks.
Yeah.
I think that we had a couple that signed up last year who didn't even do it. They saw it up close and personal and said, no way.
Oh, really? See, maybe if you're going to sign up for it, maybe check out a video and see if you have what it takes. Are we hoping that we have just about 60 seconds left? Are we hoping that this becomes an annual thing?
Definitely. This is the second year, and I think that it took off a lot bigger than we even expected last year. Lots of spectators, lots of people who were there for the entire time. You can watch right from the Riviera Beach in Lake Geneva and see the whole event. Red Bull does a great job with all their events with, a great announcer and music and free Red Bull and all that kind of thing. And it's really, it's interesting to be part of an event like the ones that you see on TV.
All right, I love it. Just a couple of seconds, a website where people can find more information.
To sign up, it is redbull.com and then /Rush Delivery USA.
We appreciate you. Ellen Burling, General Manager of Lake Geneva Cruise Line. We appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you very much.
Of course. All right, guys, that's it for our Wednesday edition of Chicago Live. Fox 32 news at 4 starts in just a couple of seconds. But for now, I'm Jake Hamilton. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you later.
From Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
And right now at 4, an update from ComEd on power outages. Which communities may be waiting a few more days for the lights to get back on? Chicago's mayor signs an order tightening city gun purchases. And with an election on the horizon, who should select the next Chicago top cop? Why some say the nationwide search should be postponed. I want to say good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us this afternoon at 4. A recovery from Monday's severe weather has stretched into a third day. Across the south suburbs, crews are busy removing trees, clearing down power lines, and assessing damage to homes. In Hazel Crest, village officials have declared an emergency, a move that could help qualify the area for state or federal disaster relief. Today, residents